Chapter 103. Chapter 103, 10 Consecutive Wins. 549690339. Currently, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the early stage of the 8th grade master realm. In addition to the power of the true war dragon technique, his true chi cultivation had already surpassed that of a peak 9th grade master. On the other hand, Lu Ming's physical body had reached lower tier rank 2, while He Tai's was only at complete rank 1. Lu Ming had surpassed He Tai in both aspects. Therefore, Lu Ming did not even use his full strength, and he could easily suppress He Tai. He Tai, with your strength, you still have the nerve to call yourself an expert? I've said it before, you and Jiang Hao are no different. Lu Ming's voice rang out, causing He Tai to roar even more furiously. He charged at Lu Ming with all his might. I'm done playing with you, it's almost time to end. Lu Ming said softly and then increased his strength by a few points. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming kept casting the flame dragon fist. His fists were wrapped in a ball of red essential chi. With every punch, a faint dragon's roar could be heard. He Tai could not block it at all, and his figure kept retreating. After a dozen or so punches, He Tai felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. He Tai was going to be defeated. Everyone in the audience watched this scene in silence. They knew that He Tai's defeat was already set in stone and there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. Bang! Bang! After a few more punches, He Tai's body trembled continuously and blood flowed out of his body. At this moment he really wanted to admit defeat, but when he thought of what he had just said, he forced himself to swallow the words, admit defeats. Lu Ming sneered and suddenly added another force. Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking came from He Tai's arm as he retreated. Lu Ming rushed forward and punched He Tai in the stomach. He Tai let out a blood-curdling screech as his sturdy body was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He fell heavily on the fighting ring, causing it to shake violently. Lu Ming took a step forward and came to He Tai's side. He looked down at He Tai and smiled faintly. Did you just say that you want to break my bone armor? I'm not. No, there's no such thing as Zhang. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. He Tai looked at Lu Ming's cold gaze and felt a chill in his heart. He was so shocked that he quickly shouted, I admit defeat. He knew that if he did not admit defeat, Lu Ming would really break his bones. Oh, he admitted defeat? Then get off the stage, you said it yourself, if you break the contract, I don't mind breaking it too. Lu Ming sneered. He Tai's expression was extremely unsightly. He had indeed said that if he admitted defeat, he would roll down the fighting ring. But at that time, he thought that he would definitely win. He had never thought that he would lose, so he said that. Now that he had really lost, how could he tell him to get out of the fighting stage in front of so many people? However, if he did not do it, Lu Ming could totally use this as an excuse to continue attacking him. Lu Ming, don't go too far. It's better to leave some room for others. In the stands, Yao Tianyu stood up and said coldly, Leave a way out? Yao Tianyu, why haven't I seen you show mercy in the past? Now, your people are lying at my feet like dogs, and I'm standing up and saying that you should leave a way out. What kind of bullshit logic are you talking about? Lu Ming glanced at Yao Tianyu and shouted. Yao Tianyu's face instantly turned extremely ugly and gloomy. Yao Tianyu, you don't have to waste your breath. It's your turn soon. After Lu Ming finished speaking, he turned his gaze away from Yao Tianyu and continued to look at He Tai. Are you going to get lost or not? If you don't, I'll personally make you get lost. After saying that, he raised his foot and was about to step on He Tai. The middle-aged judge didn't say a word during the process. He had to uphold any agreement made on the fighting stage. Wait, I'll get lost. I'll get lost. He Tai suddenly shouted. Compared to having all the bones in his body broken by Lu Ming, he ultimately chose to roll. Immediately, he rolled around on the fighting ring in humiliation. His movements were clumsy and ridiculous. He rolled dozens of times before falling off the fighting ring with a plop. Everyone present was dumbfounded. After a long while, they burst into laughter. He Tai's face was completely red, and he was so embarrassed that he could no longer stay there. He ran out of the bronze platform. After today, He Tai would become a laughingstock. On the grandstand, Yao Tianyu's killing intent was so thick that it could not be dispersed. He Tai was his man. If He Tai lost face, he would lose face as well. Lu Ming, Lu Ming, Lu Ming, if I don't kill you, I'm not a human. Yao Tianyu roared in his heart, his killing intent incomparably sharp. At that moment, the judge announced that Lu Ming had won 9 consecutive wins. Lu Ming had already achieved 9 consecutive wins and was only one step away from 10 consecutive wins. Countless people revealed looks of anticipation. In the history of the mystical sword sect, there were not many people who could enter the bronze ranking in their first year. In the past 10 years, there was only one. He was one of the gold disciples of the mystical sword sect, the strongest among all the disciples, one of the Scorching Sun's 6 heroes, Feng Wuji. Feng Wuji was a true peerless genius. Could Lu Ming achieve that? In the next round, Lu Ming will be fighting against an expert with 9 consecutive wins. Who among you with 9 consecutive wins will come up for a fight? The middle-aged judge announced. For a long time, no one spoke. 9 consecutive wins was only one match away from 10 consecutive wins. Of course, he had to be extremely cautious. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be in vain if he lost. Lu Ming's abilities were unfathomable. The disciples who had won 9 times in a row would not go up easily if they were not confident. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one came forward, the judge said, "All right, since no one has taken the initiative to come up, I'll draw lots. Whoever I draw will have to come up." This was also one of the rules of the bronze platform, which was to force people to fight. Otherwise, if some people were too strong to fight, they wouldn't be able to enter the bronze ranking. After the judge finished speaking, someone immediately went up the stage and handed him a box. Inside the box were the names of all the disciples who had won 9 consecutive victories. The judge fumbled around randomly. After a while, he took out a bamboo stick with a name on it. "Wu Hao, you go up and fight." The judge's voice echoed throughout the entire arena. On the west side of the stands, a young man stood up with a helpless look on his face. Since he had been chosen, he could only fight. With a few leaps, Wu Hao reached the fighting ring. "Junior brother Lu, please." Wu Hao cupped his fists, his expression extremely solemn. Lu Ming could easily suppress He Tai, and this made him feel very pressured. "Please," Lu Ming said. When the judge announced the start of the match, the two of them began to fight. For Wu Hao to be able to obtain 9 consecutive wins, he naturally had real ability. His movement technique and sword technique were both of the upper yellow level, and he had already cultivated them to the 6th level. His talent could not be said to be lacking. Unfortunately, he had encountered Lu Ming and was destined to lose. Lu Ming did not use his full strength. He used the huge sword in his hand to display the lustrous sword technique. He fought with Wu Hao for dozens of moves before he defeated him. 10 consecutive wins. After defeating Wu Hao, it meant 10 consecutive wins. 10 consecutive wins meant that one would be on the bronze list. The crowd was boiling. Chapter 104. Chapter 104, Get Down Here. 549690339. The entire bronze platform was in an uproar. Lu Ming had really made it onto the bronze ranking. Today, 2 new students had made it to the bronze rank. One was from the previous batch, and the other was from this batch. This had never happened in the history of the mystical sword sect. Many people cheered that they had not come in vain. They had come today to see if Feng Xinglie could make it onto the bronze rank. In the end, Feng Xinglie lived up to expectations and successfully made it onto the bronze rank. He even defeated Duanmu who was ranked 55th. Originally, they had thought that it would end like this. However, the truth was that it had not ended. It was because Lu Ming had stepped onto the fighting ring. In the beginning, no one was optimistic about Lu Ming's chances. They thought that Lu Ming had stepped onto the fighting ring on impulse after seeing Feng Xinglie's glory. However, it turned out that they were all wrong. Lu Ming had displayed his superb combat abilities and swept through the crowd. He had made it to the bronze rank directly, shocking everyone. Many of them had said with certainty that Lu Ming was arrogant, overconfident, and that it was impossible for him to succeed. Now they had been slapped in the face by the facts. However, they did not care anymore. They were all excitedly releasing the excitement in their hearts. Whoa, this is too strong. He managed to enter the bronze ranking in his first year. In the past 10 years, only senior brother Feng Wuji has managed to do it. Who is senior brother Feng Wuji? He's a peerless genius, one of the 6 heroes of the Scorching Sun sect. I didn't expect Lu Ming to be able to do it. Could he be a genius on the same level as senior brother Feng Wuji? That's not necessarily true. Some people are powerful in the early stages but may not have such strong potential in the later stages. However, Lu Ming's current performance is indeed very strong. Actually, other than senior brother Feng Wuji, Duanmu Lin from the White Tiger Hall can do it as well. However, his bloodline was awakened too early and he was promoted to a Esilavir disciple. That's why he didn't try for the bronze rank. Oh, I've heard of this before. As the newcomer king this year, Lu Ming had won 10 consecutive matches. Many disciples had already begun to compare him with the strongest geniuses in the past. Senior brother Lu Ming is mighty. He's invincible. In the southern grandstand, Pang Shi roared excitedly, his face flushed with excitement. Brother, do you know senior brother Lu Ming? Someone nearby asked Pang Shi. When he addressed Lu Ming, he had already added the word senior brother. Of course. Senior brother Lu Ming and I live in the same courtyard. We're roommates. Pang Shi said proudly. He's actually senior brother Lu Ming's roommate? Junior brother Pang, if there's a chance in the future, please introduce us to senior brother Lu Ming. The other disciples said immediately. In the mystical sword sect, many things would be much easier if he had a backer. Lu Ming, a disciple who had just joined the sect this year, had displayed shocking talent. Given time, no one knew what level he would reach. Many smart people were already thinking of ways to get closer to Lu Ming. Haha, I can try, but I can't guarantee that senior Lu Ming won't have the time. Pang Shi said as he touched his head. That's for sure. The others chimed in. Beside Pang Shi, Hua Qi's eyes were also filled with shock. At the same time, there was also a deep admiration. The geniuses on the bronze ranking all had different expressions on their faces. For example, Yen Su, who was ranked 50th, and Jidong, who was ranked 48th, both had extremely serious expressions. On the other hand, Feng Xinglia's eyes were glistening as he looked at Lu Ming with surprise and admiration, as well as a strong desire to fight. As for Yao Tianyu, his face was extremely gloomy, and at the same time, killing intent flashed in his eyes. As for the geniuses who were ranked higher on the bronze list, their eyes lit up. No one knew what they were thinking. Do you think Lu Ming will continue to challenge? I think so. Didn't you see? He had previously provoked Yao Tianyu by name. I guess he will definitely challenge Yao Tianyu. If he really challenges Yao Tianyu, that would be interesting. Actually, I think it would be more interesting if he were to challenge Feng Xinglia. Both of them would be the new generation king. Yes. Around them, the disciples of the 4 courtyards began to guess whether Lu Ming would continue to challenge them. The middle-aged judge announced, Lu Ming, you've won 10 battles in a row and have made it onto the bronze ranking. According to the rules, you're now ranked 58. I'll report this to the sect. Now, do you still want to continue the challenge? The middle-aged judge looked at Lu Ming and asked. His eyes were filled with surprise. He had hosted the bronze platform for many years and had seen all kinds of geniuses. However, people like Lu Ming were extremely rare. Everyone's gaze was on Lu Ming. They wanted to know who Lu Ming would challenge. Could it be Yao Tianyu? As expected, Lu Ming's gaze turned to Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu looked at Lu Ming coldly. Yao Tianyu, 3 months ago, I said that I wanted to fight you. However, at that time, you were high and mighty, saying that I was not qualified to fight you. Now, do I have the right? Lu Ming looked at Yao Tianyu and said word by word. Lu Ming, I admit that you're quite talented. You're indeed qualified to challenge me now. But do you think, Yao Tianyu said in a deep voice. Then why are you still talking nonsense? Come down and fight me. Lu Ming interrupted Yao Tianyu's words and shouted loudly in an overbearing manner. Giggle. When had Yao Tianyu ever enjoyed such treatment? He was interrupted by Lu Ming halfway through his sentence and was even told to get lost for a fight. He felt a towering anger suffocating his chest and almost caused internal injuries. He clenched his fists tightly, making cracking sounds. Lu Ming, do you dare to fight to the death? Yao Tianyu let out a furious roar. Just what I want, get down. Lu Ming's fighting spirit was strong and he was not afraid at all. Bzzz. Yao Tianyu's figure flickered and he appeared on the fighting ring, standing opposite Lu Ming. Do you really want to have a life and death battle? The middle-aged judge asked. Not bad. Lu Ming said firmly. I'll kill Lu Ming in a battle of life and death. Yao Tianyu said coldly. All right, then let's have a life and death battle. We won't stop until one of us is dead. The middle-aged judge announced. In a life and death battle, one person would definitely die. No matter who died, it would be a great loss to the mystical sword sect. However, the path of martial arts was full of thorns and difficulties. Every peak expert was tempered through life and death. The middle-aged judge and the higher-ups of the mystical sword sect knew this very well, so they would not stop the death duel between the disciples. No matter how much of a genius he was, as long as it was a fair fight, they would not stop him. If 10 geniuses died in battle and a peerless expert was born, it would be worth it. As the judge's voice fell, the atmosphere in the stadium was once again ignited and boiling. Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu were going to have a life and death battle. This meant that only one of them could leave the fighting ring today. Between the two of them, who would win? Yao Tianyu himself was a super genius. 2 years ago in the newcomer's trial, he was one of the popular candidates to compete for the newcomer king. Now, he was only 17 years old, but he had already reached this level of cultivation, which was extremely rare. As for Lu Ming, he was a super genius among super geniuses. He was this year's newcomer king. In his first year, he had already made it to the bronze rank. In the clash between the two, who would have the last laugh? Chapter 105. Chapter 105. The Great Battle with Yao Tianyu. 549690339. Love-struck fool, do you think senior brother Lu Ming can win? In the southern grandstand, Pang Shi could not help but worry for Lu Ming. I don't know. Hua Qi shook his head. It's been a long time since Yao Tianyu fought. Although he's only ranked 51st, no one knows if he has any trump cards. But I guess that even if he does, he won't be much stronger than Lu Ming. Hua Qi said. Why? Pang Shi asked. Because Yao Tianyu was afraid. Are you afraid? He's going to have a life and death battle with Lu Ming. Why would he be afraid? Pang Shi asked in surprise. It's precisely because he wants to have a life and death battle that he is afraid. Lu Ming is too talented. Yao Tianyu knows that if he doesn't get rid of Lu Ming now, he will not have a chance in the future. He is afraid of Lu Ming's talent. That's why he wants to get rid of Lu Ming now. Hua Qi analyzed. Isn't Lu Ming in danger? Pang Shi's expression changed. Not necessarily, Lu Ming. I've seen through him from the beginning. Hua Qi said. Just then, a few graceful figures appeared in the southern stands. It was Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and the others. It was obvious that they had rushed over after receiving the news that Lu Ming was challenging the bronze platform. Elder Mu Lan, senior sister Feng Wu. Pang Shi immediately greeted him when he saw him. Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and the others went up to Pang Shi and the others made way for them. Lu Ming has really made it onto the bronze ranking. But isn't it a little too hasty to have a life and death battle with Yao Tianyu now? Feng Wu was both amazed and worried. Don't worry. Lu Ming is very meticulous and not so impulsive. Moreover, since the first day I met him, he has repeatedly exceeded my understanding. I believe that he will not disappoint me today. Mulan smiled. Her smile was incomparably charming, causing some of the hot-blooded male disciples to stare with their mouths agape. Some of them even drooled. It was too alluring. At this moment, not only Mulan and the others, but some other people had also come to the stands. Even a few more geniuses on the bronze rank had come. Clearly, they had all rushed over after hearing the news. Boom! Boom! At that moment, on the fighting ring, Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu both released a powerful aura. Their auras collided in the air, forming a strong wind that swept through the surroundings. Lu Ming, I'll let you see my true abilities now. Yao Tianyu howled and a saber appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and slashed at Lu Ming. A ray of saber radiance burst out. The pale white saber radiance was more than 10 meters long. It cut through the air and the space, slashing toward Lu Ming's head with a terrifying aura. The martial technique that made Yao Tianyu famous, black-grade low-level saber technique, wind-breaking 8 slashes. As soon as Yao Tianyu made his move, someone cried out in surprise. As expected, I've successfully cultivated a profound rank martial skill. Let me test its power. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He stomped on the ground heavily and shot forward, his sword slashing at Yao Tianyu's saber. For the time being, he didn't need to use his spear technique. Lu Ming was extremely strong. The huge sword in his hand was as light as a feather. The giant sword slashed out and destroyed Yao Tianyu's blade light. The giant sword then heavily hit Yao Tianyu's saber. Clang! An earth-shattering boom rang out, and sparks flew in all directions. The two of them quickly retreated at the same time. The first move was a tie. He blocked it. Lu Ming actually blocked Yao Tianyu's black-level saber technique. Lu Ming must have cultivated the path of body tempering. With his strong physical body and the integration of martial arts, he was able to unleash a powerful combat power. That's how he managed to block Yao Tianyu's black-level saber technique, physical body against black-level saber techniques. Who is stronger? The disciples of the 4 halls were all staring at the scene. Lu Ming, let's see how many of my attacks you can block. Yao Tianyu let out a long howl and attacked like a tidal wave. Saber radiance burst forth and tore through the air, aiming for Lu Ming once again. Lu Ming wielded his huge sword and engaged Yao Tianyu in a fierce battle. Clang! Clang! Violent collisions kept happening, and the sound of explosions continued. The powerful saber radiance and sword chi surged out, forming a powerful storm that swept in all directions. At the same time, sword chi and saber radiance slashed the fighting ring. However, the fighting stage was extremely hard, and there were even inscriptions on it. Even martial grandmasters couldn't break it. Sword chi and saber light didn't leave a mark on it. The battle was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged more than 30 moves, and neither of them had a clear winner. Yao Tianyu, it seems that you've only cultivated the black-level saber technique to the 2nd stage. If that's all you've got, then you should just die. Lu Ming let out a long howl as his essential chi surged. He exerted all his strength, and the strength of his essential chi and physical body exploded. Of course, Lu Ming did not display the blood meridian and the fire force. Buzz! The combat sword cut through the void, making a terrifying buzzing sound. This sword was much stronger than the previous one. Lu Ming did not use his full strength just now. Someone exclaimed. Yao Tianyu's eyes narrowed. Then, a blood-red light flashed on his body, and a huge mantis with 5 blood-red chakras appeared. Then, the mantis burrowed itself into Yao Tianyu's body, and the aura on Yao Tianyu's body intensified. Bloodline explosion. Yao Tianyu's bloodline was that of the dual-blade mantis, which greatly enhanced his blade techniques. With the activation of his bloodline, Yao Tianyu's blade techniques became even sharper and more powerful. Clang! There was another explosion, and the two of them retreated again. After Lu Ming took a step back, he stomped on the ground and charged forward again. Yao Tianyu did the same. The two of them were like 2 cannonballs, heavily crashing together. Clang! Clang! In just a few breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 10 moves. At the scene, everyone held their breath as they watched unblinkingly. It was too intense and exciting. Boom! With another move, the two of them trembled and slid back a dozen meters before they could stabilize themselves. Yao Tianyu, is this your full strength? I'm really disappointed. As soon as 2 minutes are up, your bloodline power will disappear, and you won't be able to fight me. Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, the entire venue was filled with whispers. Lu Ming was right. Once the time for Yao Tianyu's blood meridian outbreak was over, how was he going to fight Lu Ming? How can this be? How can Lu Ming be so powerful? The few young men who followed Yao Tianyu shouted in disbelief. Lu Ming, I admit that you're very strong. It's not bad that you can force me to this point. Now, I'll show you my true strength. I was planning to use it in the great competition of the 4 courtyards in 2 months. It's your honor to use it on you. At this moment, Yao Tianyu was not afraid. Instead, he laughed out loud. Then, Yao Tianyu took a step forward, and the fighting ring rumbled. Yao Tianyu's muscles quickly bulged, and a faint black light appeared on his skin, making him look like a black iron. Chapter 106. Chapter 106. Chapter 106 Profound Level Martial Arts Technique. I know it too. 549690339. Lu Ming, don't think that you're the only one who has cultivated the body tempering path. Yao Tianyu let out a long howl. With a bang, Yao Tianyu's body was like a huge piece of iron. He charged at Lu Ming and slashed at him. The saber light howled and shook the world. The Tao of body refinement. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He exploded with all his strength and blocked the attack with the giant sword. Boom! When the huge sword and Yao Tianyu's saber clashed, Lu Ming felt an overwhelming force surging toward him, and his body slid back by more than 10 meters. He only felt his body go numb. The path of body cultivation. Yao Tianyu has also cultivated the path of body cultivation. He's cultivating the same body cultivation technique as He Tai. Judging from the level of control, he's not weaker than He Tai. With a strong body and black level saber techniques, Lu Ming is finished. He's no match for him. That's right. With his strong body and black level saber technique, his combat power is too strong. Yao Tianyu's ranking on the bronze rank is definitely not just 51st. In my opinion, he can be ranked in the 40s. Lu Ming can't possibly fight against him. Lu Ming is in danger. What a pity for such a genius. I don't think so. Maybe Lu Ming has also cultivated a black level martial arts technique? Idiot, Lu Ming has also cultivated a black level martial arts technique? How is this possible? Do you think profound grade martial arts techniques are so easy to cultivate? How long has it been since Lu Ming entered the sect? One's cultivation level can be increased rapidly by relying on rare treasures or fortuitous encounters. However, martial arts techniques rely on one's comprehension and time. Although Lu Ming is very talented, he has too little time. I'm 100% sure that it's impossible for him to cultivate a black level cultivation technique now. Yao Tianyu's sudden outburst caused everyone to fall into a state of shock. In the southern grandstand, Pang Shi was extremely anxious. What do we do? Yao Tianyu was actually this strong? What to do? Would senior brother Lu Ming be alright? This is a battle of life and death. Pang Shi, calm down. Feng Wu called out, but there was worry in her eyes as well. Hua Qi and Mu Lan did not say anything. However, their eyes were also filled with worry. Lu Ming, can you still create a miracle? Mu Lan muttered to herself. On the eastern grandstand, Yao Tianyu's lackeys were ecstatic. Senior brother Yao is invincible. How can a mere Lu Ming fight with senior brother Yao? He's destined to die in senior brother Yao's hands. A few lackeys shouted. In addition, Feng Xinglie, Yen Su, and the other geniuses on the bronze ranking all stared at the stage with bright eyes. Lu Ming, this is my strongest combat power. Do you see it? That's the difference between us. I can kill you in 1 minute. Yao Tianyu's tone was very arrogant. At the same time, he was full of disdain and mockery towards Lu Ming. However, to everyone's surprise, Lu Ming actually smiled. Lu Ming smiled confidently and calmly. His clear voice could be heard from afar. This giant sword is really not easy to use. I thought that this sword would be enough to defeat you, but now it seems that I have to change. As soon as he finished speaking, the huge sword in Lu Ming's hand disappeared and an 8-foot-long fiery red spear appeared in his hand. A spear? Could it be that Lu Ming uses a long spear? I heard that he's always using a sword. Could he be bluffing? No matter what, in the end we still have to rely on strength. Yao Tianyu looked at the long spear in Lu Ming's hand. His eyes flickered and he sneered. What's the use of changing weapons? With a flash of saber light, Yao Tianyu continued to charge at Lu Ming. Fire gun art broken armor. The spear thrust out, bringing with it an intense spinning cutting force. The spear hit the blade of Yao Tianyu's saber accurately. A powerful force burst out from the tip of the spear, and the blade light that Yao Tianyu had condensed on the blade was instantly scattered. With a clang, the battle blade trembled, and Yao Tianyu's figure staggered back. Black rank spear technique? Impossible! Yao Tianyu let out a roar of disbelief. Lu Ming must have used a black-level martial arts technique to push him back with a single spear attack. Moreover, the level of mastery was definitely not weaker than his saber technique. How was this possible? 3 months ago, Lu Ming definitely did not manage to master the black-level spear technique. Otherwise, he would have used it in that life-and-death situation. There could only be one explanation. Within 3 months, not only did Lu Ming's physical body and cultivation level improve, but he had also cultivated a black-level spear technique. At the thought of this, Yao Tianyu's heart was filled with intense fear. Lu Ming was too freakish and abnormal. This kind of talent was too terrifying. No, I must kill him today. Otherwise, I'll be the one to die in the future. Yao Tianyu roared in his heart. At this moment, everyone present was stunned. When Lu Ming pushed back Yao Tianyu with one shot, they were already stunned. Fire gun art mountain crash. Lu Ming seized the initiative and did not give Yao Tianyu the slightest chance. He leaped high into the air and smashed his long spear down fiercely. The long spear whizzed through the air, emitting a terrifying sonic boom. Yao Tianyu had no time to counterattack, so he could only block with his saber. Clang! The long spear smashed into Yao Tianyu's battle blade. This spear strike contained the power to split the earth and shatter the mountains. Yao Tianyu's body trembled and his legs trembled. He almost knelt down. He felt something sweet in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. When Lu Ming used the black-level martial arts technique, he had completely crushed him. Lan Yu. Lu Ming did not show any mercy. He launched a frenzied attack. His long spear was like a dragon, constantly bombarding Yao Tianyu. Yao Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. He was at a complete disadvantage. The eyes of the disciples from the 4 halls almost popped out of their sockets. A black-level martial arts technique. Lu Ming has also cultivated a black-level martial arts technique. This is incredible. Who's that? Weren't you 100% sure that Lu Ming could not cultivate a black-level martial arts technique? What do you say now? This? The one who was asked blushed and was completely speechless. He was not the only one. The disciples of the 4 courtyards who were certain that Lu Ming could not have cultivated a black-level martial arts technique all blushed. Lu Ming's words were a harsh slap to their faces. They did not dare to speak anymore. Lu Ming was simply beyond common sense. They were afraid that if they said too much, they would be slapped in the face again. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're amazing. Pang Shi's body trembled with excitement. Mulan, Feng Wu and Hua Qi were overjoyed as well, but they couldn't hide the shock on their faces. Impossible? How is that possible? Yao Tianyu's lackeys roared in disbelief. Bang! After more than 10 moves, Lu Ming's spear swept across Yao Tianyu's chest. The sound of bones breaking echoed throughout the entire arena. Yao Tianyu's body was sent flying more than 20 meters and he fell heavily on the fighting ring. His body twitched non-stop, and the saber in his hand flew far away. Yao Tianyu had lost. He had been completely defeated. He was defeated by Lu Ming, the newcomer king of the year. The disciples of the 4 courtyards, including the geniuses on the bronze list, held their breath and looked at the 2 figures on the fighting ring. Chapter 107. Chapter 107. You don't have the right. 549690339. Lu Ming walked towards Yao Tianyu, step by step, his clear and indifferent voice ringing out. Yao Tianyu, a few months ago in the Dark Blood Mountain, your lackey tried to snatch my Dark Blood Stone but was forced to run away by me. At that time, I had already shown mercy. However, you thought that you were superior and that I must obey you. When I returned to the sect, you ordered someone to summon me and asked me to hand over the Dark Blood Stone. I didn't agree to it, but you instigated the Star Moon Tower to cause trouble for the new Vermilion Bird Hall disciples and hurt my brother Pang Shi on purpose. Your purpose was to infuriate me so that you could take me down with the people of the Law Enforcement Hall. Then I would be at your mercy. At that time, you were so arrogant and insufferably arrogant that I didn't even have the right to challenge you. But now, where did your arrogance and arrogance go? Lu Ming walked as he spoke. When he finished speaking, he had already walked to Yao Tianyu's side. His eyes were indifferent as he looked down at him. The surrounding disciples of the 4 halls suddenly came to a realization after hearing this. So that was how the feud between Lu Ming and Yao Tianyu came about. Yao Tianyu is too arrogant. He actually used such a despicable method. It's not that Yao Tianyu is arrogant, but that's how the world of martial arts should be. It's just that Yao Tianyu chose the wrong person. If he had chosen someone else, he would have to submit to him. However, he had to meet Lu Ming, a peerless genius. Therefore, he can only fail. The disciples of the 4 halls were discussing among themselves ears. The battle of life and death ends here. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. Wait a minute, Lu Ming, wait a minute. Don't kill me. You're a peerless genius, and I'm not bad either. We can work together. In the future, no one in the mystical sword sect will be our match. Yao Tianyu's body struggled madly as he shouted. He was still young and had a bright future ahead of him. He didn't want to die. Cooperation? You are not qualified to work with me. Lu Ming smiled in disdain. Whoosh! Then, the spear flashed and pierced through Yao Tianyu's chest. Yao Tianyu let out a blood-curdling screech as he clutched the spear shaft tightly with both hands. Blood was gushing out of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness, hatred, and regret. At this moment he finally regretted. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming pulled out the long spear and shook it. The blood on the long spear flew away, not leaving a single drop. Yao Tianyu's body slowly went limp, and finally he stopped breathing. Yao Tianyu, a genius on the bronze list, was dead. At this moment, the crowd was boiling. Today, not only had Lu Ming made it onto the bronze ranking, but he had also killed Yao Tianyu. All of this was like a dream. It was so unreal. But that was the truth. Today, Lu Ming's name was destined to spread throughout the entire mystical sword sect. In the southern stands, Pang Shi laughed maniacally. Mulan and the others also smiled. On the east side of the stands, Yao Tianyu's lackeys were pale and weak as they sat in their seats. Yao Tianyu was dead. They knew that their future days would not be easy. Previously, they had been tyrannical because of Yao Tianyu and had offended many people. Those people were afraid of Yao Tianyu, so of course, they did not dare to do anything to them. But now that Yao Tianyu was dead, who would care about them? Their future would be miserable. The geniuses on the bronze list were also shocked by the scene. I can't match up to Lu Ming's talent. Feng Xinglia let out a long sigh and turned around to leave the stands. Lu Ming is the winner of this battle. Lu Ming, do you still want to continue the challenge? The middle-aged judge announced loudly. Lu Ming shook his head and walked down the fighting ring. Killing Yao Tianyu was enough. There was no need to fight anymore. It was better to keep some trump cards for himself. In this battle, he had already exposed his body refinement Dao and profound level martial arts techniques. Of course, he could only display the power of the second level of a profound rank martial skill. Additionally, he still had control force which he had not used. If he really used it, the disciples of the four courtyards would be shocked beyond words. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're really amazing. Pang Shi, Hua Qi, Mulan, and the others also got down from the stands and walked toward Lu Ming. Before they even arrived, Pang Shi had already started shouting excitedly. Lu Ming, when did you manage to cultivate a black-level martial arts technique? We've suffered so much hiding it from you. Feng Wu said as she walked over. It's too noisy here. Let's talk as we walk. Lu Ming smiled. There were tens of thousands of people here, and it was really inconvenient to talk in such a noisy place. The crowd left the bronze platform and headed toward the Vermilion Bird Hall. Lu Ming briefly explained his trip to the Southridge Fire Field to cultivate his spear technique. As for the fact that he had comprehended control force, he didn't mention it. You're saying that he's only been cultivating in the Southridge Fire Field for a few months, and he's already cultivated the profound rank spear technique to this level? Feng Wu and the others all stared at him. That's right. The environment of that place just so happens to be compatible with my spear technique. As such, it's much easier for me to cultivate there. Lu Ming said. What a pervert. Everyone despised Lu Ming. How could it be so easy to cultivate a profound grade martial skill? It was very easy to find a suitable environment to cultivate in, but how many people could actually master it? Everyone could only describe Lu Ming as abnormal. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Only he knew that he had relied on the chanting in the Supreme Shrine and his tireless cultivation to achieve his current achievements. They chatted as they walked, and soon, they arrived at the Vermilion Bird Hall where Lu Ming and Pang Shi were staying. Senior Sister Mulan, I still haven't returned the 3,000 contribution points I owe you from last time. After entering the courtyard, Lu Ming took out his identity jade card. Mulan's beautiful eyes flickered. Her limpid eyes darted back and forth on Lu Ming's body. After a while, she said, last time, not only did you defeat Ning Feng, but you've also made it onto the bronze list and killed Yao Tianyu. You've greatly boosted the prestige of the Vermilion Bird Hall. I can't be stingy anymore. Take the 3,000 contribution points as your reward. Many thanks, Senior Sister Mulan. As soon as Mulan finished her sentence, Lu Ming immediately thanked her without any embarrassment, as if he was afraid that Mulan would go back on her words. Mulan was speechless. Then, she shifted her gaze and said, now that you've made it onto the bronze ranking, you'll be representing the Vermilion Bird Hall in the great competition of the 4 halls in 2 months. The great competition of the 4 courtyards. Lu Ming had some doubts. Pang Shi was confused as well, while Hua Qi and Feng Wu's eyes flickered, as if they had heard about the competition. Mulan explained, the great competition of the 4 courtyards is a competition between the 4 courtyards. It's held once a year. For example, among the bronze disciples, the geniuses on the bronze ranking will directly participate. It's because it's meaningless for other disciples to participate. Similarly, the Esilavir disciples will be directly participated by the geniuses on the Esilavir ranking. In the end, they will be rewarded according to the results of the disciples of each courtyard. Not only will the individual participants be rewarded handsomely, but the sect master will also represent the sect and give more resources to the great courtyard that performs well. This is the most important thing. Chapter 108. Chapter 108. The Great Competition of the 4 Courtyards. 549690339. I see. Lu Ming nodded. Now that you're on the bronze ranking, the Vermilion Bird Hall has 10 geniuses on the bronze ranking. In 2 months, you'll be representing the Vermilion Bird Hall in the tournament. You'll have to work hard on your cultivation during this time. If you rank well, not only will you receive a generous reward, but the entire Vermilion Bird Hall will also benefit. Mulan said with a smile. Lu Ming smiled. Don't worry. I'll do my best. Fengwu, what did you say a few months ago? He asked. I said that if I defeat Yao Tianyu in 4 months, you'll have to treat me to a big meal. Hey, why do you remember it so clearly? Big Sister Mulan has already given you 3,000 contribution points as a reward, and you're still thinking about my feast? Fengwu rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming touched his nose. That's another matter. I've been thinking about your big meal for a few months. That's right, that's not the same thing. Ha, you guys have to bring me old Pang along. Pang sure jeered from the side. Hey, Big Rock, what are you doing? Fengwu said unhappily. In the end, they couldn't win against the few of them. The group left the Vermilion Bird Peak and arrived at Shenzhen City. Everyone ate and drank to their heart's content. When they returned, it was already late at night. Lu Ming did not cultivate that night. Instead, he had a good rest. The next day, Lu Ming walked towards the contribution hall. He was going to exchange his Esilavirer and a few martial arts techniques for contribution points, and then exchange them for some demonic beast blood essence to cultivate. He had more than 4 million taels of Esilavirer on him, as well as 3 martial skill manuals. They were respectively the yellow-grade low-rank sword technique, Wild Wave Slash, the yellow-grade high-rank body technique, Soaring Cloud Steps, and the yellow-grade high-rank cultivation techniques, Hunyuan techniques. However, Lu Ming did not plan to exchange for the cloud-treading steps. He planned to keep it for his own cultivation. After all, his cultivation time was too short. He could not be compared to those senior disciples who had cultivated for a few years, or even 5 or 6 years, or even 7 or 8 years. Those senior disciples had no lack of movement martial skills, offensive martial skills, and defensive martial skills. Their maturity was not weak. However, Lu Ming had only cultivated 4 types of martial arts techniques. Flame Dragon Fist, Dragon Snake Steps, Lustrous Sword Technique, Fire Lance Technique. At his current realm, the Flame Dragon Fist and Dragon Serpent Steps were no longer of much use. He had to cultivate a higher-level martial art technique. He planned to focus on practicing the cloud-treading steps and fire-controlling gun art before the great competition of the 4 courtyards. As for other martial arts techniques, he didn't have that much energy. And this was because of the chanting in the Supreme Shrine. How long had he been cultivating? It had only been 10 months or so. If it had been anyone else, they would definitely not have been able to cultivate these martial skills to such a profound level in such a short time. After arriving at the contribution hall, Lu Ming exchanged Wild Wave Slash and Hunyuan technique for contribution points. He had exchanged for a total of 30,000 contribution points. He also exchanged 2 million taels of Esilavirer for contribution points, leaving him with more than 2 million taels of Esilavirer. He had a total of 50,000 contribution points. In addition to the remaining contribution points that Lu Ming had, he had a total of 55,000 contribution points. Then, Lu Ming started to exchange for demonic beast blood essence. A 9th grade 2nd level demonic beast cost 1,600 contribution points each. Lu Ming exchanged for 25 of them, using up a total of 40,000 contribution points. Lu Ming also exchanged for a piece of upper lever 2 soft armor, which cost him 3,000 contribution points. His 55,000 contribution points had been reduced to 12,000 in an instant. This rate of expenditure was truly too terrifying. Lu Ming could not help but feel his heart ache. However, it was worth it to improve his abilities. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine and began to cultivate. Lu Ming did not consume the demonic beast's blood essence continuously. Instead, he would consume and refine a portion every 2 days. This way, his foundation would not be unstable. For the rest of the time, Lu Ming spent most of his time on the cloud-treading steps and the fire-controlling gun technique. He would also take some time to comprehend the force of fire. Every time he comprehended the force of fire, a volcano would appear in his mind. the might of a volcano would spread in his heart. To Lu Ming's surprise, as his understanding of the force of fire deepened, the effect of cultivating the fire gun controlling art was better than usual. It was as if he was cultivating in the Lingnan fire field at all times. Time passed day by day, and the annual great competition of the 4 courtyards was getting closer and closer. During this period of time, the atmosphere in the 4 halls of the mystical sword sect became more and more tense. All the geniuses on the bronze list were cultivating in seclusion in order to improve themselves. More people were stepping up to challenge the bronze platform, hoping to make it to the bronze rank and be qualified to participate in the great competition of the 4 courtyards. More than a month later, the fire gun art had another breakthrough and entered the 4th level. When the great competition of the 4 courtyards was about to begin, the fire gun controlling art had reached the peak of the 4th level. However, it seemed that he had encountered a bottleneck. No matter how hard Lu Ming cultivated, he could not break through. His greatest improvement was the soaring cloud steps. As a warrior's martial Dao realm rose, his understanding of martial Dao would also become deeper and deeper. It would be faster for him to practice low-level martial arts techniques. For example, if a martial king-level martial artist were to practice yellow-rank martial arts, he would probably be able to reach the 6th level in less than 2 days. Therefore, Lu Ming's current cultivation of the yellow-level upper-level soaring cloud was several times faster than when he cultivated the lustrous sword technique. Within 2 months, Lu Ming had cultivated the cloud-treading steps to the highest level, the 6th level, the union of man and martial arts. After refining 25 portions of 9th grade 2nd level demonic beast blood essence, Lu Ming's cultivation base had also risen to the peak of the 8th grade master realm. He was only 1 step away from the 9th grade master realm. At this time, the mystical sword sect was welcoming the most lively and exciting moment of the year. The great competition of the 4 courtyards. At this moment, almost all the mystical sword sect disciples had returned to the sect. Although most of the disciples were not qualified to participate, it would be very helpful for their cultivation to witness the battle between the top geniuses of different realms. Moreover, there were actually 4 new disciples on the same stage in this great competition of the 4 courtyards. This was extremely rare even in the history of the mystical sword sect, so it was naturally even more attractive. Lu Ming, this is for you. On the day of the grand competition of the 4 courtyards, Hua Qi and Pang Shi knocked on Lu Ming's door before dawn. Hua Qi stuffed a small notebook into his hands. What is this? Lu Ming had some doubts. This is the information of all the geniuses on the bronze list. You can take a look. It might be helpful to you. Hua Qi said. What? The information of all the geniuses on the bronze list? How did you guys get it? Lu Ming was shocked. Senior brother Lu Ming, Hua Qi has spent a lot of money recently and hired many senior disciples to help collect these. I've realized now that the love-struck fool has nothing but money. Pang Shi said. Hey Big Rock, what are you saying? What do you mean I have nothing but money? I'm telling you, I have everything. Hua Qi said unhappily. Lu Ming's heart moved. He could not help but feel touched. It was not hard to imagine that to collect such information, it was definitely not something that could be done with a little bit of money. It was definitely a huge number. He had a feeling that Hua Qi's identity wasn't simple. Many thanks. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, I just don't want you to lose so badly. After all, we're from the same dormitory. If you lose so badly, I'll lose face too. Hua Qi left these words before turning around and leaving. Senior brother Lu Ming will set off together later. Pang Shi said as he touched his head before leaving. Chapter 109. Chapter 109. The Vermilion Bird Hall's Dean. 549690339. Lu Ming returned to his room and opened his notebook to read. It contained the detailed information of everyone on the bronze list, including their martial arts techniques, cultivation, and weapons. Although it was not 100% accurate, it was very valuable as a reference. It would be of great help to Lu Ming. One could only win every battle if one knew one's enemy and oneself. There were 60 names recorded in the book, which meant that there were 60 people on the bronze list. Before Lu Ming entered the bronze rank, there were 56 people on the bronze rank. Yao Tianyu was killed. However, with Lu Ming and Feng Xinglie, there were 57 people on the bronze rank, which meant that 3 more people had entered the bronze rank recently. As expected, the Vermilion Bird Hall has the least number of people. The Vermilion Bird Hall had 11 students, the Black Tortoise Hall had 12, the Azure Dragon Hall had 15, and the White Tiger Hall had 22. The Vermilion Bird Hall was last, while the White Tiger Hall was the strongest. In the end, Lu Ming's gaze landed on the first 10 names. Zhang Muyun, Duanmu Yunyang, Biu Xingkai, and Duan Gang. The 10 names represented the top 10 of the bronze rank. The Vermilion Bird Hall only has one person in the top 10. Lu Ming frowned. The Vermilion Bird Hall only had one person in the top 10, and she was ranked 6th. 4 from the White Tiger Hall, 3 from the Azure Dragon Hall, and 2 from the Onyx Tortoise Hall. There was no doubt that the Vermilion Bird Hall was the worst in terms of both the number of people and the top geniuses. Top 10? A glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, and he revealed a trace of fighting spirit. Very quickly, 2 hours had passed and the sky was already bright. When Lu Ming walked out of the room, he saw Pang Shi and Hua Qi already in the courtyard. Besides them, Feng Wu was also there. Lu Ming, I heard that Hua Qi has been collecting information on the geniuses on the bronze rank. How's it going? Feng Wu asked. I'm done. Lu Ming nodded. Yes, but I have to add a few points. Let's talk as we walk. Feng Wu said. The few of them nodded and walked out. The geniuses on the bronze list can be roughly divided into 6 levels and 3 types. Have you heard of them? Feng Wu asked. 6 levels, 3 types. Lu Ming, Hua Qi, and Pang Shi were a little puzzled. That's right. The 6 levels are divided according to combat strength. After all, most of the geniuses on the bronze list are at the peak of the 9th grade master realm. Although some of them are ranked first, their combat strength is very close. The 45th to 60th ranks are in the 6th level. The 30th to 45th ranks are in the 5th level. The 20th to 30th ranks are in the 4th level. The 10th to 20th ranks are in the 3rd level. The 4th to 10th ranks are in the 2nd level. The top 3 are the strongest and are in the 1st level. There are 3 types. The first type is like you and Feng Xinglie. They just entered the school and entered the bronze rank not long ago. They are very talented, but they are not very strong because they have only been on the school for a short time. The second type is the extremely talented geniuses who have been on the bronze list for a long time, but have deliberately stayed at the peak of the 9th grade master realm in order to build a stronger foundation. This type of geniuses have the most terrifying combat strength, and most of the top 10 on the bronze list are this type. The third type is the senior disciples who have been in the sect for many years. They are stuck at the peak of the 9th grade master realm and have been unable to break through. These types have limited potential, but due to their many years of cultivation, they have mastered all sorts of martial arts and secret techniques, so their combat strength is also very strong. Feng Wu explained in detail. Lu Ming and the other 2 nodded after hearing that. They did not expect that there were so many tricks to it. Lu Ming, in the future, you just need to know what to do when you face your enemies. Feng Wu said. The 4 of them chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at the place where the great competition of the 4 courtyards would be held. The great competition of the 4 courtyards was not held in the 4 courtyards or in the middle of the 4 courtyards. Instead, it was to the north of the Onyx Tortoise Hall, where the core of the mystical sword sect was. This place was vast, with peaks towering and clouds lingering, making it hazy. This was where the sect leader, golden-robed elders, and gold-rank disciples cultivated and lived. It was said that other than these, the true strength of the mystical sword sect was hidden here, and it was the core of the mystical sword sect. In front of the peaks, there was a flat piece of land where a fighting stage was built. Around the fighting stage were wide stands. The layout was very similar to the bronze platform, but it was several times wider and more majestic. The square grandstand could hold more than 100,000 people. The disciples from the 4 halls continued to gather there. When Lu Ming and the others arrived, they found the Vermilion Bird Hall's area and sat down. As time passed, more and more people arrived. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. That's the headmaster of the White Tiger Hall and the Esilavira-robed elder of the White Tiger Hall. Someone whispered. Lu Ming and the others looked up and saw dozens of figures stepping on the air. There were old men and middle-aged men. Each of them had the aura of a mountain. They were extremely dense and suffocating. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people landed in the White Tiger Hall's area. The Vermilion Bird Hall's headmaster and the Esilavira-robed elder are here as well. Suddenly, a Vermilion Bird Hall disciple nearby cried out in excitement. There were also dozens of people in the air, both men and women, and all of them had powerful auras. The leader was an old man with white hair. He was wearing a fiery red robe with a lifelike vermilion bird embroidered on it. He had a kind expression and greeted the people from the Vermilion Bird Hall with a smile. This was the head of the Vermilion Bird Hall, Yen Lan. Lu Ming saw a familiar face beside the Vermilion Bird Hall's dean. It was Mu Lan. Feng Wu, what's Mu Lan's relationship with the dean? Lu Ming could not help but ask Feng Wu. You don't know? The director is big sister Mu Lan's grandfather. Feng Wu said, Grandpa? As expected. Lu Ming could not help but recall that Yao Tianyu had mentioned this news a few months ago. He just did not pay attention to it at that time. As expected, Mu Lan's identity was not simple. On the side, Pang Shi and Hua Qi were also dumbfounded. A dean of a large courtyard was definitely a top figure in the mystical sword sect. His status was comparable to the golden-robed elders, and his authority was even greater than the golden-robed elders. In the mystical sword sect, he was a true overlord. At that moment, the Vermilion Bird Hall director and the others landed in the Vermilion Bird Hall's area. After they landed, the Vermilion Bird Hall director and Mu Lan actually walked toward Lu Ming and the others. Plus, the dean is here. Pang Shi was so nervous that he stuttered. Hua Qi was rather calm, but there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. The people nearby were even more nervous. After all, it was not easy to see the dean. Who is the principal here to see? Could it be Lu Ming? Such a thought flashed through many people's minds. They had guessed correctly. The Vermilion Bird Hall dean and Mu Lan walked toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming greets the dean and senior sister Mu Lan. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. Chapter 110. Chapter 110, the start of the competition. 549690339. You're Lu Ming, right? I've heard this little girl Lan mention you so many times, and I've long wanted to come and see you. And now that I've seen you, you're indeed not bad. You can be called a dragon among men. The Vermilion Bird Hall's dean sized Lu Ming up carefully, stroking his white beard and nodding his head. You're too kind, director, Lu Ming said humbly. However, he was still a 16-year-old teenager after all. To be praised by such a big shot, he was still happy in his heart, and his face could not help but reveal a smile. Grandpa, don't praise him. Look at how proud he is. Mu Lan glanced at Lu Ming and said, Senior sister Mu Lan, are you jealous? Lu Ming smiled. You're the one who's jealous. Boy, now that you're on the bronze list, you're getting bolder, aren't you? Mu Lan gritted her teeth and glared at Lu Ming fiercely. On the side, Feng Wu, Pang Shi, Hua Qi, and the others couldn't help but burst out laughing, their faces turning red. Senior sister Mu Lan, what's wrong with me being proud of the dean's praise? This is the principal. Shouldn't I be proud to be able to get the principal's approval? Isn't that right, director? Lu Ming said and looked at the dean. Little guy, I like your true nature. You should be proud of yourself, but you can't underestimate your enemy later. The Vermilion Bird Hall chief laughed. Thank you for your reminder, headmaster. Lu Ming cupped his fists again. Detestable. Mu Lan gritted her teeth and left with the Vermilion Bird Hall chief. they returned to their seats. Pucci. After Mulan left, Feng Wu and the others couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. Lu Ming, let me tell you. Sister Mulan is very vengeful. You have to be careful in the future. Feng Wu said, laughing. All of a sudden, she saw Mulan's fierce gaze from not far away. Her expression immediately turned serious and her smile disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming was shocked by the speed of the change. The other Vermilion Bird Hall disciples cast envious looks at Lu Ming. The head of the Vermilion Bird Hall had come to see him in person and even praised him in public. What an honor! This meant that the Vermilion Bird Hall's dean admired Lu Ming. This was a treatment that even Cheng Feiyu, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Vermilion Bird Hall's bronze ranking, did not have. Buzz. Bzzz. At this moment, a few rays of light suddenly flew out from the depths of the mystical sword sect. The dazzling light pierced through the void and arrived above the fighting ring in an instant. Welcome, sect leader. As soon as they arrived, the deans of the 4 halls and the Esilavir-robed elders got up and packed their bags. Sect master? Lu Ming and the rest were shocked that the sect master had arrived. They quickly stood up and said, Welcome, sect leader. More than 50,000 disciples shouted in unison, their voices shaking the world. No need to be so polite, sit down. A calm and clear voice sounded. The voice seemed to come from the sky, but it also seemed to have come from everyone's ears. It was very strange. Lu Ming looked up and saw 7 figures in the sky. The person in the lead looked to be in his 40s. He had a handsome face and long black hair. He was dressed in a snow-white robe as he stood in the air. It was as if he was the center of the entire world. He did not emit any aura, but in Lu Ming's eyes, he was like an endless ocean, unfathomable and giving off a terrifying pressure. Is this the sect master of the mystical sword sect? One of the overlords of the Burning Sun Empire, flying snow god sword, Lin Shui. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Behind the sect leader of the mystical sword sect were 2 gold-robed elders and 4 Esilavir-robed elders. Then, the sect leader and the 6 elders of the mystical sword sect flew down and landed on the highest point of the northern stands. That place was specially prepared for the sect leader and the others. Everyone's here, right? Let's start. The sect leader of the mystical sword sect announced with a wave of his hand. As soon as the sect leader finished speaking, a Esilavir-robed elder flew up to the fighting ring and began to introduce the rules of the competition. The rules were simple. There were 60 people in total, and they would be assigned numbers according to their previous ranking. Previously, Lu Ming had killed Yao Tianyu and naturally replaced his ranking. He was ranked 51st and his number was 51. The 60 people would fight in pairs and draw lots to decide their opponents. The winner would enter the top 30, and the loser would be eliminated. However, after the top 30 were decided, there would be another challenge. The elders of the 4 halls and the elders of the sect would discuss together and choose 10 powerful geniuses to challenge the 30 geniuses who had advanced earlier. As long as they won, they would be able to replace the other party and enter the top 30. This was for the sake of fairness because some people might be very strong, but their luck was bad at the beginning, and they would draw the geniuses in the top few places, so they would lose somewhat unjustly. This way, they could avoid the stronger geniuses from being eliminated early due to bad luck. This was related to the interests of the 4 halls, so it was natural to be fair. The rules were the same for the top 15 from the top 30. The top 10 would be chosen and the final ranking would be decided by a round of battles. There were many rewards for entering the top 10. Other things aside, Lu Ming was very envious of the contribution points. All right, I'm sure everyone knows the rules. Now, the disciples on the bronze rank can come up to draw lots. The Esilavir-robed elder announced. Lu Ming stood up and walked onto the fighting ring. People from the 4 great academies walked up to the fighting ring. In the end, there were 60 people in total. Everyone's eyes were focused on these 60 people. They would be the main characters for the next few days. Look, that's Zhang Myun. He's ranked first on the Azure Dragon Hall's bronze ranking. He's so handsome, talented and handsome. I wish I could marry him. Stop dreaming. I heard that Zhang Muyun and the 7th ranked Zhuo Yirong are a couple. You can stop dreaming. Look, that's Lu Ming, this year's newcomer king. He rushed into the bronze rank in his first year. It's too shocking and he's so handsome. He doesn't have a girlfriend, right? I've decided I'm going to chase him. Why would Lu Ming be interested in you? On the field, the female disciples of the 4 halls were chattering and discussing with great interest. Instantly, some of the male disciples were displeased. Although Lu Ming is talented, it's not his time yet. I don't think he will pass the first round. That's for sure. It's impossible for him to pass the first round and enter the top 30. Even if he's lucky enough to pass, he'll still be replaced by others. The male disciples said unhappily. In the White Tiger Hall's area, there were 2 people who were staring at Lu Ming. One of them was a young lady in a white dress, and her beauty was unparalleled. She was Lu Yao, who had disappeared the moment she joined the mystical sword sect. Her father, Lu Yunxiong, was sitting beside her. At that moment, Lu Yao's face darkened as she looked at Lu Ming's tall and straight figure on the fighting ring. She had been humiliated during the Lu family's grand competition and hated Lu Ming to the core. She wanted to take revenge on Lu Ming, so she had been cultivating in seclusion ever since she entered the mystical sword sect. This cultivation took almost 9 months. Moreover, he was the fiancé of the peerless genius Duanmu Lin, so the Duanmu family was naturally not stingy with their resources. With the help of a large amount of resources, Lu Yao's cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. She had broken through all the barriers, and when she came out a few days ago, she had already reached the 6th grade master realm. Chapter 111. Chapter 111. The Arrogant Duanmu Family. 549690339. At first, she thought that with such a cultivation base, she would be able to trample on Lu Ming and humiliate him 10 times or 100 times more. However, she did not expect that after she came out of seclusion, Lu Yunxiong would tell her that Lu Ming had killed Yao Tianyu, made it to the bronze rank, and was going to participate in the great competition of the 4 courtyards. The moment she heard it, she was stunned. It was simply unbelievable and unacceptable. She thought that she had heard wrong. She could not bear it. She was full of confidence and thought that she could trample on Lu Ming. However, the truth was the opposite. She had spent a lot of resources, but she was getting further and further away from Lu Ming. Lu Ming, that little bastard. How did he improve so quickly? God is really unfair to let this little bastard have such strong talent. On the side, Lu Yunxiong gritted his teeth, his voice extremely gloomy. No matter how strong Lu Ming is, he's just trash in front of Brother Lin's. Lu Yao said in a deep voice. Miss Lu is right. How can Lu Ming, that little bastard, compare to young Master Lin? He's worlds apart. Many young men from the Duanmu family sat beside Lu Yao and the others. One of them sneered. That's right. Moreover, Lu Ming won't be able to go far in this competition. If he meets a genius from the Duanmu family, he'll definitely be crippled. Even if he's lucky enough to make it into the top 30, the geniuses from the Duanmu family will definitely challenge him at the first opportunity. Another youth said. That's good. With the heroes of the Duanmu family here, I can rest assured. Lu Yunxiong laughed. Lu Ming had no idea about this. In the fighting ring, tens of thousands of eyes were looking at them. Among the 60 people, some were so excited that their faces turned red. Some were rubbing their fists and wiping their palms. They glanced at the others with hostility. There were also some who were calm and composed, with all kinds of expressions. Lu Ming smiled faintly, his eyes filled with anticipation. First, the Esilavir-robed elders would draw 30 people, and then these 30 people would draw the remaining 30 people. Whoever was drawn would be their opponent in the first round. Lu Ming was one of the first 30 people to be drawn. Then, Lu Ming and the other 30 people went up to draw lots. Very soon, the drawing of lots was completed. Lu Ming had drawn number 46. Number 46? I'm quite lucky. Lu Ming smiled and registered the Silver-robed elder with it. Then he returned to his seat. Lu Ming, what number did you draw? Feng Wu hurriedly asked. Number 46. Lu Ming said with a smile. Number 46, Yun Feng from the Onyx Tortoise Hall. Lu Ming, you're in luck. Hua Qi asked in surprise. Lu Ming smiled. He was not too bothered. To him, it was just a battle no matter who he drew. Clang! A melodious bell rang, indicating that the exciting great competition of the 4 courtyards was about to begin. Now, the great competition of the 4 courtyards officially begins. Before it begins, you must pay attention to one of the most basic rules. In this competition, you can't harm your life. You can do whatever you want with other things. Also, you can't use any medicinal pills to improve your combat strength, except for secret skills. Now, let's officially begin. The first battle, number 60 versus number 23. On the fighting ring, the Silver-robed elder announced. Number 60? Isn't that the genius from the Vermilion Bird Hall, Lu Hui, who just entered the bronze ranking? Lu Ming had an idea. In the Vermilion Bird Hall area, an ordinary-looking, thin young man walked out of the crowd and went up to the fighting ring. Haha, I'm so lucky to have met the trash from the Vermilion Bird Hall. From the White Tiger Hall's area, a loud laugh was heard. Then, a young man appeared on the fighting ring with a few leaps. Number 23, Duanmu Yunchong of the Duanmu family. Lu Ming muttered. The Duanmu family has indeed produced many talents in recent years. Feng Wu said with a grim look in her eyes. On the fighting ring, Duanmu Yunchong looked at Lu Hui with a mocking expression and said, Trash from the Vermilion Bird Hall, kneel down and admit defeat now. Otherwise, you'll be in for it. Lu Hui's expression was unsightly as he stared at Duanmu Yunchong without saying a word. His eyes were filled with determination. Trash, it seems like you really want to fight me. Don't worry, I can defeat you with one move. I'll let you know that it was only luck that you managed to get into the bronze rank. Also, let me tell you, your Vermilion Bird Hall is destined to be swept away this time. Don't even think about getting into the top 10. Duanmu Yunchong sneered. He was extremely arrogant and haughty. Damn it, the Duanmu family is really fucking despicable. You still want to sweep us aside? Dream on. Senior sister Cheng Feichen will definitely be in the top 10. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples were all furious as they cursed. A bunch of nonsense, you only know how to talk. On the fighting ring, Duanmu Yunchong said with a disdainful expression. Lu Hui's face was gloomy. He tightly held the hilt of his sword with one hand and stared at Duanmu Yunchong. Suddenly, Lu Hui rushed out. His long sword was unsheathed and turned into a ray of Silver light, piercing toward Duanmu Yunchong. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Lu Hui was performing a black-level low-rank sword technique. However, he had only just reached the 2nd level. Small tricks. Duanmu Yunchong coldly sneered. His body moved and he dodged Lu Hui's attack. Black-grade low-level movement technique. At the same time, Duanmu Yunchong struck out with his palm. The wind from his palm whistled like thunder. A black-grade low-level palm technique, another black-grade martial arts technique. It was obvious that Duanmu Yunchong had mastered 2 profound grade martial skills. When they were used in pairs, they were as fast as lightning and as fast as thunder, increasing their battle strength by a large margin. Lu Hui's sword had missed. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He could only use his other hand to block the palm. However, Lu Hui's palm strike was only launched out of desperation. How could it withstand Duanmu Yunchong's black-level palm energy? Bang! Lu Hui's body flew out and he retreated more than 10 meters. His face was pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it, you actually dared to block my palm. You asked for it. Duanmu Yunchong bellowed in his heart. His expression was extremely gloomy. He had said that he would deal with Lu Hui in one move, but now Lu Hui had actually blocked one move. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. Buzz! Duanmu Yunchong's figure moved. He used his black-grade movement technique and moved as fast as a ghost. He instantly appeared behind Lu Hui and struck out with his palm. Although Lu Hui was on full alert and quickly slashed his sword behind him, he was still a step too slow due to his injuries. Bang! The palm hit Lu Hui's chest. Lu Hui spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Duanmu Yunchong followed closely behind. Without giving Lu Hui the chance to catch his breath, he struck out another palm. However, this palm was aimed at Lu Hui's face. Pa! A clear sound of a slap was heard. Duanmu Yunchong had ruthlessly slapped Lu Hui's face. Lu Hui's entire body was sent flying. However, Duanmu Yunchong did not have the intention to let go. His body moved and caught up with Lu Hui. Another slap landed on Lu Hui's face. Lu Hui was sent flying and fell to the ground. Trash, I told you to admit defeat a long time ago. Well now, I've beaten you like a dog. Duanmu Yunchong looked down at Lu Hui and said in disdain. Damn it, Duanmu Yunchong, don't go too far. A warrior can be killed but not humiliated. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples were filled with righteous indignation. Someone shouted. Chapter 112. Chapter 112. Chapter 112. The First Battle. 549690339. What do you mean by a warrior can be killed but not humiliated? He's just a piece of trash. I told him to kneel down and admit defeat, but he still wanted to fight. With this little combat strength, he's simply asking to be humiliated. Duanmu Yunchong looked at the Vermilion Bird Hall's side and sneered. Damn it. Damn it, I'm so angry. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples, including Pang Shi, Hua Qi, and Feng Wu, were all flushed with anger. At the very top of the stands, the sect leader of the mystical sword sect was expressionless, as if none of this could stir his emotions. In the White Tiger Hall's area, the White Tiger Hall's headmaster stroked his beard and smiled. The head of the Vermilion Bird Hall frowned. On the fighting ring, Duanmu Yunchong curled his lips in disdain. He walked toward Lu Hui and stepped on his body. He looked down at him and sneered, Now, are we still going to fight? Admit defeat, Lu Hui. Admit defeat. Stop fighting. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciple couldn't help but call out. I admit defeat. Lu Hui said unwillingly. His eyes revealed a humiliated expression as he looked at Duanmu Yunchong. You've admitted defeat. What were you doing earlier? What do you mean by that look? If you're not willing, you're still pissing me off. Pissing me off, you're really a piece of trash. After he had finished speaking, Duanmu Yunchong kicked out and sent Lu Hui flying. Duanmu Yunchong, what are you doing? Lu Hui has already admitted defeat, yet you still attack. You have broken the rules. A Vermilion Bird Hall disciple shouted. Who said I attacked? I didn't use any strength at all. I only asked him to move away. He was blocking my foot. I lifted my foot and he flew out. Duanmu Yunchong indifferently said. Nonsense, you did it on purpose? One of the Vermilion Bird Hall disciples roared. On the fighting stage, the Silavira-robed elder slightly frowned. Duanmu Yunchong had indeed broken the rules. All right, Yunchong, be careful when you lift your feet next time. At this moment, an old and vigorous voice came from the White Tiger Hall. Yes, Principal. Duanmu Yunchong immediately said respectfully. The voice came from the White Tiger Hall's headmaster. On the fighting stage, the Silavira-robed elder frowned. However, since the White Tiger Hall's headmaster had spoken, he had no choice but to give him some face. After a moment of silence, he announced, Duanmu Yunchong wins this battle. Damn it, the Duanmu family is really shameless. Feng Wu said through gritted teeth. The other Vermilion Bird disciples were the same. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He suddenly said, Don't worry. This Duanmu Yunchong won't be arrogant for long. Feng Wu, Hua Qi, Pang Shi, and the others were taken aback, not understanding what Lu Ming meant. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples went up to help Lu Hui down and the competition continued. The battle was extremely intense and exciting. The geniuses on the bronze list all had combat strength that far exceeded their peers of the same level, and they had all kinds of profound level martial arts techniques and secret skills, which made people feel very satisfied. Especially the geniuses in the top 10, they were unimaginably powerful. No matter what kind of opponent they faced, they would be dealt with in one move. A few hours later, more than 20 matches had already passed. There were only 5 or 6 more matches left before it would end. Next round, number 51 versus number 46. The Asilavira-robed elder announced. 51 against 46? Why are they so close in ranking? Which two? Number 51 used to be Yao Tianyu, so it's Lu Ming now. Number 46 is Yun Feng from the Onyx Tortoise Hall. Lu Ming? Based on the abilities that Lu Ming displayed when he killed Yao Tianyu, he might be able to defeat Yun Feng. He's so lucky. Indeed, we're too lucky. The Asilavira-robed elder's words caused a wave of discussion. Back then, Yao Tianyu had not only cultivated a black-grade low-level martial arts technique to the second level, but his physical body had also been cultivated to complete grade 1. His combat strength had already surpassed his ranking, and some people believed that Yao Tianyu could already be ranked in the 5th level. Since Lu Ming was able to kill Yao Tianyu, his combat strength was definitely stronger than Yao Tianyu's. Some people had speculated that with Lu Ming's combat strength, he might be ranked around the 40th place. They all thought that Lu Ming was too lucky to be up against Yun Feng. Lu Ming, that little bastard. Why is he so lucky? In the White Tiger Hall area, Lu Yunxiong gritted his teeth. So what if I'm lucky? Even if you're lucky enough to make it into the top 30, you'll still be challenged by others. That'll be even more embarrassing. A young man from the Duanmu family sneered. Lu Ming could not be bothered with the discussions around him. He got up and went up to the fighting ring. Good luck, senior brother Lu Ming. Pang Shi shouted. However, other than Pang Shi, no one else was cheering for Lu Ming. The other Vermilion Bird Hall disciples had similar thoughts as the others. They all thought that even if Lu Ming made it into the top 30, he would be challenged by others. If they cheered for Lu Ming now, wouldn't it be even more embarrassing? A burly young man from the Black Tortoise walked up to the fighting ring. He was Yun Feng, who was ranked 46th. Lu Ming, although you're very strong, I'll give it my all in this battle. I hope you won't hold back. Yun Feng looked at Lu Ming and said loudly. I know what I'm doing, you can use your full strength. Lu Ming said. Yun Feng's eyes narrowed. Lu Ming's confidence made him not dare to be careless. He focused all his attention and exploded with all his strength. A powerful aura burst out of Yun Feng's body. Then, a red light flashed on his body. A black rhinoceros roared, and 4 chakras appeared. His bloodline burst out. Mad Rhinoceros Slash. Yun Feng sprinted and slashed out with the saber in his hand. A terrifying saber radiance seemed to be able to cut open the space. At this moment, Yun Feng's essence, energy, and spirit were highly concentrated. At this moment, he erupted with extraordinary strength. That's the 3rd stage of a black-grade low-level martial arts technique, and Yun Feng actually broke through. Good. A Asilavira-robed elder in the Onyx Tortoise Hall's area cheered. The other people present were also shocked. They didn't expect that Yun Feng would surpass them when faced with pressure, causing his black-rank martial skill to break through from the 2nd level to the 3rd level. Lu Ming is in danger now. Such a thought appeared in many people's minds. It's even better that you've broken through. The corners of Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Then, he suddenly took a step forward and dashed toward Yun Peak. The long spear in his hand was pulled forward, bringing out a crescent moon. Fire gun art moon pulling. Clang! The long spear struck Yun Feng's saber, causing a loud boom. The entire fighting ring seemed to shake. Whoosh! Then, a figure flew out like a cannonball and glided more than 30 meters on the huge fighting ring that was more than 200 meters in length and width. Then, his body trembled and he knelt down, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Everyone present was dumbfounded. The figure that had been sent flying was Yun Feng. One move. With just one move, Yun Feng was sent flying by Lu Ming, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Even a blind person could tell that the difference between Yun Feng and Lu Ming was too great. How did this happen? How could Lu Ming be so powerful? He was simply too strong, terrifyingly strong. Was he still a newcomer this year? Yun Feng had clearly broken through right before the battle, but he was still sent flying with a single strike. Although some people had guessed that Lu Ming would win, they did not expect him to win so easily. Chapter 113. Chapter 113, I Admit Defeat. 549690339. They're not on the same level at all. Lu Ming's abilities are probably in the top 30. That's right. I really didn't expect him to improve at such a terrifying speed. Discussions could be heard from the surroundings. Haha, senior brother Lu Ming, you're the best. Pang Shi shouted. Lu Ming, good luck. Lu Ming, you're the most handsome. The other Vermilion Bird Hall disciples finally couldn't help but shout out in excitement. With the abilities that Lu Ming had displayed, they could finally cheer for him without worry. This kid is not bad. Lanier, you have good eyes. The head of the Vermilion Bird Hall stroked his beard and revealed a satisfied expression. Lu Ming, maybe he can enter that place in the future? Mulan sighed. The head of the Vermilion Bird Hall's expression changed slightly. Lanier, do you really want Lu Ming to go there? Lu Ming is still too far away from it. I know that Lu Ming is still far from it, but I believe that he will be able to do it in the near future. He has given me too many surprises. Mulan's limpid eyes flickered with hope as she looked at the slender figure standing with a spear in the fighting ring. AI. The Vermilion Bird Hall principal sighed and did not say anything. In the area of the White Tiger Hall. Damn it, how can this little bastard be so strong? Lu Yunxiong was furious. Lu Yao's face was extremely cold, and her eyes flickered with madness and a sinister light. She glared at Lu Ming on the fighting ring and bellowed in her heart. Lu Ming, that damned Lu Ming. You're just a bastard that I abandoned, a piece of trash. How can you be so strong? The trash that I abandoned should be trash, trash for the rest of my life. I will not allow a trash to become stronger than me. I will not allow it. At this moment, everyone's eyes were shining with all kinds of light as they looked at the figure on the fighting ring. Other than the sect leader of the mystical sword sect, his eyes were calm and aloof, as if he was not affected by anything. But in the next moment, the sect leader's indifferent and aloof expression disappeared and was replaced with shock. Because a voice came from the fighting ring. I admit defeat. Silence. The entire place quieted down, so much so that even a pin drop could be heard. No matter what kind of expression they had on their faces before, they all turned into one expression in an instant, dumbfounded expression. It was because Lu Ming was the one who had said, I admit defeats. It was not Yun Feng but Lu Ming. Lu Ming admitted defeat. What was happening? How did this happen? The deans of the 4 campuses were all dumbfounded. Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong were dumbfounded, and so were Pang Shi, Feng Wu, Hua Qi and Mulan. The other Silver-robed elders and gold-robed elders were also dumbfounded. What is Lu Ming trying to do? Pang Shi was tongue-tied. Lu Ming has clearly revealed his ability and he can enter the top 30. Why did he suddenly surrender? What the hell is he doing? Feng Wu frowned. That's right. His strength can easily enter the top 30. Hua Qi also frowned and mumbled. He suddenly stopped and his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, I know what Lu Ming is going to play. I like it. You know? Why is that? Pang Shi asked in surprise. I can't tell you now, just wait and see. Hua Qi smiled mysteriously. Pang Shi, Feng Wu, and the others all looked down on her. On the fighting ring, the Esilavira-robed elder's eyes were wide open. He was stunned for a long time before he asked, "Lu Ming, what did you say? You admit defeat?" "Yes, I admit defeat." Lu Ming nodded. "Lu Ming, what do you mean by this? Are you looking down on me?" In front, Yun Feng stood up and glared at Lu Ming. "I'm not looking down on you. Don't misunderstand, I'm just admitting defeat," Lu Ming said indifferently. Yun Feng was at a loss for words. The Esilavira-robed elder confirmed once again before helplessly announcing that Yun Feng had won this round. Lu Ming smiled and walked back to the Vermilion Bird Hall area. "Fuck, Lu Ming, what are you playing at? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, I'm not done with you." Feng Wu glared at Lu Ming, gritting her teeth. "You'll know in a while," Lu Ming said with a smile. "Senior brother Lu Ming, why are you saying the same thing as the love-struck fool? I really don't understand you guys." Pang Shi scratched his head. Lu Ming and Hua Qi looked at each other and smiled. Then, the competition continued. In less than an hour, all 30 matches had ended. Among them, the 4 most popular newcomer kings. One of them was Feng Xinglia. He had not trained for long enough and met an expert who was ranked 21st. He failed. As for Lu Ming, he admitted defeat. The other 2 were extremely powerful, so they naturally advanced easily. The top 30 had already been decided, but it was not over yet. There were still challenges. The Esilavira-robed elders from the 4 courtyards, the Esilavira-robed elders from the sect leader's side, and the 2 gold-robed elders discussed and decided to select 10 powerful challengers. This was because there were indeed some powerful geniuses among them. If they were unlucky, they would encounter those ranked in the top 10 or those ranked in the top 10. Naturally, they were no match for them. Now they had to give them a chance. It didn't take long for the 10 challengers to be announced. I now announce the candidates for the challenge. They are Wu Jin, Huang Fei, Lu Ming. The hosting Esilavira-gowned elder announced. Lu Ming's name was among them. "Ha, I knew it. Senior brother Lu Ming will definitely have another chance to challenge him. The abilities that he displayed just now are very powerful," Pang Shi said with a smile. At this moment, the names had been announced. The Esilavira-robed elder said, "All right, you can choose your target now." As soon as the Esilavira-robed elder finished speaking, a figure quickly leaped onto the fighting ring. The figure was Lu Ming. The crowd was stunned again. Lu Ming had just admitted defeat and was the first one to step onto the fighting ring to issue a challenge. What was he trying to do? Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning. He turned around and looked at the White Tiger Hall. He pointed the spear in his hand and said coldly, "Duanmu Yunchong, get your ass up here." The cold voice spread throughout the area, causing many people to be shocked. Then, some of them had a look of realization. I know why Lu Ming admitted defeat earlier. His goal was to obtain the right to challenge Duanmu Yunchong. Someone shouted. That's right. Before Lu Ming admitted defeat, he deliberately displayed his powerful combat strength and defeated Yun Feng in one move. He knew that even if he admitted defeat, he would still be given the right to challenge Yun Feng. He's trying to take revenge for Vermilion Bird Hall's Lu Hui. I see. This time, everyone on the field understood. On the highest grandstand, the sect leader of the mystical sword sect looked at Lu Ming curiously and muttered, "This Lu Ming is indeed not bad." It's not easy to attract the sect leader's attention. A golden-robed elder smiled and said. At this moment, the entire place was in an uproar as they entered into a heated discussion. Chapter 114. Chapter 114. Chapter 114 Bullying. 549690339. So this is senior brother Lu Ming's idea. It's so complicated. No wonder I didn't think of it. Love-struck fool, you've thought of it before, haven't you? Pang Shi laughed and asked. That's right. Hua Qi smiled and nodded. When Lu Ming fought, There were only 6 or 7 matches left. He only admitted defeat after displaying his powerful abilities. Isn't that strange? I also deduced from this that he was absolutely confident that he would be selected to challenge. That's why he did that. This guy's way of doing things is really evil and unexpected. Feng Wu said, pouting. Not far away, Lu Hui's injuries had already stabilized. He muttered, "Lu Ming." His eyes were filled with gratitude. The other Vermilion Bird Hall disciples' gazes changed as well. They looked at Lu Ming with admiration. However, it was different for the disciples of the White Tiger Hall, especially those from the Duanmu family. They were all furious. Damn this Lu Ming. He's trying to go against the Duanmu family. That's right. We haven't even settled all the scores from before. Now, he dares to provoke us again. Duanmu Yunchong, go. Let him know that challenging you was a mistake. Some of the Duanmu family's young men shouted. Don't worry. He admitted defeat on purpose and challenged me to stand up for Lu Hui. I will let him know how stupid his actions are. A sinister smile appeared on Duanmu Yunchong's face. He then stepped forward and appeared on the fighting ring like a ghost. Lu Ming, you want to stand up for Lu Hui? Later on, I will make you suffer 10 times more than Lu Hui. Duanmu Yunchong said in a malevolent manner. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. I've seen a lot of trash like you. Every one of them was very arrogant at the beginning, just like Yao Tianyu and his gang. In the end, they all became dead dogs. That's right. All the best, senior brother Lu Ming. Beat him up until he's a dead dog. Beat him up. Avenge senior brother Lu Hui. All hail senior brother Lu Ming. All the best, senior brother Lu Ming. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples shouted. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong had been too despicable. He had humiliated Lu Hui. The Vermilion Bird Hall's disciples were united against the common enemy. Naturally, they would stand on Lu Ming's side. A bunch of trash. They only know how to shout. Duanmu Yunchong snorted coldly. His face was extremely gloomy. When he looked at Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with killing intent. Buzz! All of a sudden, Duanmu Yun became impulsive and he rushed toward Lu Ming. A black-grade low-level movement technique that was as fast as lightning. However, Lu Ming stood there without moving. He had no intention of dodging. Just as Duanmu was about to reach Lu Ming's long spear swept out. The half-moon appeared and swept across the land 3 meters ahead. Duanmu Yunchong was greatly shocked. His figure rapidly retreated and dodged this attack by a hair's breadth. Lu Ming, do you think that it's useful to rely on the length of your weapon? In your dreams? Duanmu Yunchong roared loudly. His figure flickered rapidly. In an instant, there seemed to be 3 Duanmu Yunchongs, figures on the field, and they rushed toward Lu Ming. This is the illusionary technique. Duanmu Yunchong has cultivated it to the 2nd level. It is said that if he were to cultivate it to the 6th level, he would be able to create 7 figures. Illusionary technique. It's both real and fake. Let's see how Lu Ming will break it. Some senior disciples discussed. Small tricks. Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. He swept his long spear across the 2 figures in front of him while his other hand blasted the figure behind him. In the next moment, the 2 figures in front of him disappeared. Behind him, Duanmu Yunchong's palm collided with Lu Ming's fist. Boom! Duanmu Yunchong, you are too naive if you think that you can be my opponent in close combat. Lu Ming sneered. His physical body was in the 2nd grade lower tier, and his cultivation had reached the peak of the 8th grade master realm. He was much stronger than he was 2 months ago when he fought Yao Tianyu. Duanmu Yunchong did not train his body and only relied on black-grade palm techniques. How could he be Lu Ming's opponent? Buzz! The spear in Lu Ming's hands shook and vibrated violently. The spear's shaft vibrated the air and burst out with powerful air waves that charged toward Duanmu Yun. Bang! Bang! Duanmu Yunchong sent out powerful palm strikes, shattering the air waves created by the spear. However, Lu Ming had already arrived. Buzz! The long spear violently whipped toward Duanmu Yunchong. It was already too late for Duanmu Yunchong to retreat from this spear. Block it! Duanmu Yunchong roared. His bloodline burst out and his palms turned red. The faint sound of a tiger and leopard could be heard. Then he pushed his palms out and hit Lu Ming's long spear with an overwhelming force. Bang! A muffled sound resounded. Then, the sound of bones breaking and Duanmu Yunchong's miserable shrieks could be heard. Like a kite with a broken string, Duanmu Yunchong's figure was sent flying far away. However, Lu Ming did not stop there. His body moved and he took a few steps forward. It was as if he was riding on the clouds as he rapidly charged towards Duanmu Yun. It was a yellow-grade high-level martial arts technique, soaring cloud steps. Although it was not as good as a black-grade movement technique, it was still much more powerful than the dragon serpent steps from before. In an instant, Lu Ming had caught up with Duanmu Yunchong, who was still floating in the air. At this moment, Duanmu Yunchong's facial features were all scrunched up due to the pain. When he saw Lu Ming chasing after him, his eyes were filled with horror and he shouted in a hoarse voice, "No, I." He was about to say, "I admit defeat," but before he could say it, Lu Ming's long spear was pulled out from the bottom. Bang! Duanmu Yunchong's "I admit defeat" was forced back and turned into a mournful scream. His body was like a broken sack as he flew into the sky. He flew up more than 10 meters and landed heavily. Lu Ming pulled out his spear again and he flew up again. At this moment, Duanmu Yunchong was completely dumbfounded and muddle-headed. He had completely forgotten about the matter of him admitting defeat. Everyone present was stunned. This was Lu Ming's combat strength. He was too powerful. Duanmu Yunchong would be completely abused. Lu Ming's black-level spear technique has already reached the peak of the 3rd level and is about to break through the 4th level. In addition to his strong physical body, which is suspected to be of the 2nd stage, his combat strength is very terrifying. Can't you guys see? His body technique is at the yellow level upper rank, but he has already cultivated it to the 6th level. Not bad, it's really terrifying. How long has he been in the sect? How did he cultivate in such a short time? Could this be a peerless genius? His battle strength can't have already entered the top 15, right? It's hard to say. Some of the Silavir disciples around them looked at Lu Ming in shock and discussed among them Slavirs. However, they did not know that Lu Ming had not exerted his full strength. He had already cultivated the fire gun control art to the peak of the 4th level and had other means. If they knew, they would be shocked to the extreme. Chapter 115. Chapter 115. Chapter 115 Challenging the 2nd bronze rank. 549690339. At this moment, the Duanmu family members in the White Tiger Hall were also dumbfounded. After a long while, someone finally shouted, "Stop! Lu Ming, you bastard! Why aren't you stopping? Duanmu Yunchong has already been defeated. Why are you still not stopping?" That's right. If you don't stop, you'll be breaking the rules. Breaking the rules? Lu Ming sneered. Duanmu Yunchong did not die. He did not admit defeat. How am I breaking the rules? You. The people from the Duanmu family were furious, but there was nothing they could do. Bang! Next, he sent Duanmu Yunchong flying with another spear strike. At this moment, the 4 principals had different expressions. The deans of the Black Tortoise Hall and the Azure Dragon Hall gloated and watched the show. The White Tiger Hall's headmaster's expression was extremely dark, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. The happiest person was, of course, the Vermilion Bird Hall's director. He scratched his beard with all his might and grinned. Carefree, this was too carefree. Admit defeat. Duanmu Yunchong, quickly admit defeat. Admit defeat. The disciples of the White Tiger Hall shouted. However, Duanmu Yunchong was already in a daze. How could he call out? Lu Ming pulled the trigger a few more times before Duanmu Yunchong fell heavily to the ground. His entire body was convulsing. White foam and blood were mixed in his mouth and kept flowing out. his skin and flesh were split open, and more than a dozen bones were broken. Of course, this was the result of Lu Ming deliberately controlling his strength. Otherwise, he would have been whipped to death with one shot. Lu Ming stepped on Duanmu Yunchong's body and looked down at him. Duanmu Yun only regained his senses after rushing for a long time. He was scared out of his wits when he saw Lu Ming in front of him. Like a young girl who had been defiled, he shrunk his body and shrieked, "Don't hit me." As he shouted, snot and tears flowed down his face. He was really scared of being slapped. When the spear hit his body, the pain was simply soul deep. "Didn't you want me to suffer 10 times worse than Lu Hui? What? Where did the awe-inspiring presence from before go?" Lu Chang looked at Duanmu Yunchong and said indifferently, No, I won't dare to do it again. Just take it as I'm farting." Duanmu Yunchong shouted. "Ha!" Duanmu Yunchong's appearance made everyone burst into laughter. The Duanmu family's disciple's face was extremely dark. This was too embarrassing. "Duanmu Yunchong, hurry up and admit defeat." Someone from the Duanmu family shouted. "I admit defeat. Yes, I admit defeat. I admit defeat." Duanmu Yunchong shouted. It inevitably caused another round of laughter. "Lu Ming, Duanmu Yunchong has already admitted defeat. Why don't you move your foot away?" Someone from the Duanmu family called out. "Oh, good." Lu Ming smiled, moved his leg, and suddenly kicked. Duanmu Yunchong let out a blood-curdling screech as his body was sent flying dozens of meters away. He rolled dozens of times on the fighting ring before coming to a stop. "Lu Ming, what are you doing? Duanmu Yunchong has already admitted defeat, yet you still attacked. You have already broken the rules. We must capture you and punish you according to the sect's rules." The Esilavir-ranked disciple of the Duanmu family roared. "Foul? You must have misunderstood. Just now, it was Duanmu Yunchong who was blocking my feet. When I lifted my foot, he was sent flying. It's all his fault. Why did he lie by my feet for no reason?" Lu Ming said indifferently. "Lu Ming?" The disciple of the Duanmu family trembled in anger. He felt as if he was suffocating and almost spat out blood. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong had treated Lu Hui in the same way. Now, Lu Ming had used it all on Duanmu Yunchong. It was really difficult for them to refute him. "Ah, Lu Ming, you're really too much. You're not even careful when you walk. You must be more careful next time." "Ah." The Vermilion Bird Hall principal stroked his beard and laughed heartily. The disciples from the other halls were speechless when they saw the Vermilion Bird Hall chief laughing. "Wasn't your carefreeness too obvious? This battle, Lu Mingsheng." The Esilavira-robed elder announced on the fighting ring. "Mighty senior brother Lu. Junior brother Lu is invincible." At this moment, the Vermilion Bird Hall disciples were so excited that they were trembling. They could not hold it in any longer and started screaming madly. It felt good, too good. It was like drinking a glass of cold beer in the middle of the summer. It felt so good that it went straight to the bone. Previously, Duanmu Yunchong had been so arrogant. But now, he was like a dead dog. It was simply too satisfying. In particular, Pang Shi, Hua Qi, Feng Wu, and the others were flushed with excitement. At this moment, the people from the White Tiger Hall had already carried Duanmu Yunchong away. "Lu Ming." Just as Lu Ming was about to turn and leave, a deafening roar rang out from the White Tiger Hall. Lu Ming turned around and saw a young man in a fiery red robe looking at him with a cold expression. "Duanmu Yunyang, that's Duanmu Yunyang. He was the newcomer king 3 years ago. What is he doing?" Someone exclaimed. "Duanmu Yunyang." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Information about Duanmu Yunyang appeared in his mind. Duanmu Yunyang, the new disciple king 3 years ago, was now ranked second on the bronze ranking. Unfortunately, he was being suppressed by Zhang Myun, who was in the same batch as him. It was difficult for him to get first place. Some people said that Zhang Myun was the true king in that episode. Duanmu Yunyang had only won the title because of the number of members in the Duanmu family. But Is there anything I can help you with? Lu Ming replied indifferently. Lu Ming, you're really bold. Perhaps you don't know how big of a mistake you've made. Lu Ming, you better pray that you don't meet me later on. Otherwise, I'll make you lose very badly. It's very ugly. Duanmu Yunyang coldly said. He especially emphasized the words very ugly. The disciples of the Black Tortoise, Azure Dragon, and Vermilion Bird Halls were all shocked. Especially the Vermilion Bird Hall disciples, their faces were even uglier. Duanmu Yunyang had his eyes on Lu Ming. Although Duanmu Yunyang was being suppressed by Zhang Muyun, it was undeniable that his combat strength was extremely powerful. He was almost invincible among his peers. There were even rumors that Duanmu Yunyang had once defeated a first-grade great martial master. This was crossing a major realm, not a small level. The strength of his battle prowess could be said to be terrifying. No one would think that Lu Ming was Duanmu Yunyang's match. Perhaps it would only be possible after a year or two. But now it was impossible. Mu Lan, Feng Wu, and Hua Qi were all worried. Pang Shi was the only one who was waving his arms and shouting that he believed in Lu Ming. Oh really? I wish I could meet you. I want to see how you're going to make me lose so badly. Don't be like Duanmu Yunchong, who only knows how to clamor. Yes, Lu Ming replied indifferently and domineeringly. Everyone was shocked. Lu Ming wanted to challenge Duanmu Yunyang. Where did he get the guts to do so? In the Azure Dragon Hall area, a man and a woman stood side by side. Among them, the man was wearing a blue robe. He had a slender figure, black hair hanging down loosely, sword-like eyebrows, and eyes like stars. He was just casually standing there, but he had an extraordinary aura, like a king on patrols. He was Zhang Muyun, ranked first on the bronze rank. Next to him was an extremely beautiful woman. She was Zhuo Yirong, who was ranked 7th on the bronze rank. Brother Muyun, what do you think of Lu Ming? Zhuo Yirong asked. He's extremely talented and a dragon among men. However, he's still young and full of youthful vigor. In 2 years, he'll be a great opponent for me. Zhang Muyun smiled. It's rare for you to think so highly of me, big brother Muyun, but isn't it great to have a worthy opponent in life? Zhuo Yirong asked, a little surprised. Yirong, you know me best. Zhang Muyun said with a smile. Chapter 116. Chapter 116. Newcomer King, Newcomer King. 549690339. Lu Ming did not say much to Duanmu Yunyang. He turned around and walked down the fighting ring. Lu Ming, thank you. When Lu Ming returned to the Vermilion Bird Hall, Lu Hui cupped his fists and thanked him. You don't have to thank me. I'm not just standing up for you. I just can't stand the Duanmu family's attitude. Besides, the Duanmu family and I have a grudge against each other. Lu Ming said with a smile. You don't like it? Lu Hui and the other Vermilion Bird Hall disciples were stunned. Just because of this reason, he went up and ruthlessly beat up Duanmu Yunchong? They felt that they could not figure out Lu Ming's thoughts. The challenge continued. The competition was very intense, and everyone was fighting with all their strength. It was already nighttime when all the challenges ended. Including Lu Ming, there were a total of 5 people who succeeded in the challenge, replacing 5 of the previous 30 people. At this time, the top 30 students from the various academies had all been born. Only 5 people from the Vermilion Bird Hall had made it into the top 30. The Onyx Tortoise Hall was just as miserable as the Vermilion Bird Hall, with only 5 people. The Azure Dragon Hall had 8 members, while the White Tiger Hall had Tulavir members. It was worth mentioning that among the 4 newcomers who had received a lot of attention this time, Feng Xinglia had already been eliminated. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had entered the top 30 as a dark horse. As for the other 2, Ling Kong, the newcomer king from 2 years ago, and Duanmu Yunyang, the newcomer king from 3 years ago, they had naturally entered the top 30 with ease. Feng Lai is still too young. He's been in the sect for less than 2 years. It's normal for him to be eliminated. That's right. However, if Feng Fenglai doesn't break through to the martial grandmaster realm in a year or two, the battle of the bronze rank will be his. That's the normal speed. But what about Lu Ming? Everyone was chatting, but they all thought of a name, Lu Ming. Lu Ming had just entered the sect this year, but he had made it into the top 30. Lu Ming? He's abnormal and can't be calculated according to common sense. Everyone could only comfort themselves with this reason. Today's competition had ended, and it would continue on the second day. Lu Ming, Pang Shi, and the rest returned to the dormitory. After a night of silence, they returned to the competition's location the next morning. Now, the top 30 will come up to draw lots. The host was still the Esilavira-robed elder from yesterday. The rules were the same as yesterday. The Esilavira-robed elders would randomly pick 15 people, and these 15 people would then pick the names of the other 15 people. This time, Lu Ming drew number 12. Number 12? It seems like I've finally met a strong opponent. Lu Ming's lips curved into a smile of anticipation. To be honest, he didn't even use his full strength in the previous battles. After the registration, Lu Ming walked towards his seat. Lu Ming, which number did you draw? Mulan asked impatiently as soon as she returned. Today, Mulan did not sit with her grandfather. Instead, she was squeezed together with Feng Wu, Pang Shi, and the others. Naturally, their area was filled with the male Vermilion Bird Hall disciples. Number 12. Lu Ming smiled. Number 12? Azure Dragon Hall's Gu Qing. Feng Wu, Hua Qi, and the others' expressions changed upon hearing this name. Lu Ming, remember, you just have to do your best. Even if you lose, it's worth it to gain something. Mulan heaved a sigh. Senior Sister Mulan, from your tone, it sounds like I'm going to lose for sure? Lu Ming was somewhat speechless. What's wrong? Do you really think you can win against Gu Qing? Mulan's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at Lu Ming. Even if I can't win, can't you just cheer me on? Lu Ming did not answer her directly. Instead, he asked her a question and sat down. However, there was an inexplicable smile at the corner of his mouth. This guy? What kind of trump card is he keeping? Mulan glared at Lu Ming for a while, as if she wanted to see through his secret. The first match officially begins. Number 19, Piu Sikhong, versus number 15, Ling Kong. The Esilavira-robed elder announced. Following the Esilavira-robed elder's announcement, the crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Ling Kong has come out. He's actually going against Piu Sikhong. A battle between the strong. This match is going to be interesting. I don't think so. Ling Kong hasn't fought for half a year. No one knows how strong he is now. However, there's no doubt that Ling Kong has the chance to enter the top 10 this time. It might even be possible for him to enter the top 6. Yeah, the rookie king from 2 years ago is about to be crowned. Two young figures stepped onto the fighting ring under everyone's gaze. Ling Kong was a bald young man of 17 or 18 years old. His muscles were bulging, and he was filled with explosive strength. He carried an iron rod on his back, and his eyes revealed a beast-like glint. This was Ling Kong, the newcomer king from 2 years ago, the peerless genius of the White Tiger Hall. However, he was not a member of the Duanmu family. Across from Ling Kong was a handsome young man named Piu Sikhong. He was ranked 19th on the bronze list and was definitely a master. However, Piu Sikhong's expression was extremely grave. Piu Sikhong, I advise you to admit defeat. You are not my match. Ling Kong said with a grin. His words were arrogant, but in reality, no one felt that he was arrogant. They only felt that Ling Kong's words were natural because he had the strength to do so. Piu Sikhong's eyes flashed, and he said with determination, Ling Kong, if you want me to admit defeat, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Oh, since you're so insistent on fighting, then you should be prepared to get injured. Sometimes, I can't control myself. Ling Kong grinned, revealing a sinister smile. Then take this. Bang! As soon as Ling Kong finished speaking, a vicious light appeared in his eyes. Like a beast, he quickly pounced towards Pusi. The sharp claw light covered Pu Sichong's body. Pu Sikhong unsheathed his long sword, and the sword chi shot up to the sky. Boom! Boom! The claw radiance in the air collided with Pu Sichong's sword chi and both dissipated. You have some skills, but that's all. Let's end this. A cold voice rang out in the air, and a baleful aura spread out from his body. Like a beast in human form, he pulled out the metal rod on his back and smashed it at Pu Sikhong. This strike was earth-shattering and had an imposing aura. Pu Sikhong exploded with all his strength, but he still couldn't block it. He was sent flying dozens of meters, his body trembling, and he spat out blood. He was defeated in 2 moves. In fact, he was defeated in 1 move. The difference between Pu Sichong's strength and Ling Kong's was too great. Ling Kong is too powerful. He'll definitely be able to get into the top 10. This time, there will definitely be some changes in the top 10. On the grandstand, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This Ling Kong was indeed powerful. He could not tell how strong he was. This is more interesting. Then, a trace of fighting spirit flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Ling Kong wins. Next round, number 17 versus number 2. The Asilavira-robed elder announced. Chapter 117. Chapter 117. Chapter 117 Flame Cage. 549690339. Wasn't number 2 Duanmu Yunyang. Duanmu Yunyang's opponent was number 17, Du He. His strength was even stronger than Pu Sichong's. However, the difference between him and Duanmu Yunyang was too great. 1 blade. With just 1 blade, Du He had been defeated. He had been completely defeated. He did not even have the power to fight back. Duanmu Yunyang's blade was extremely terrifying. It seemed as if it could split the heavens and earth. No one knew how much of Duanmu Yunyang's strength he had used in this attack. However, there was no doubt that it was extremely terrifying. The competition continued. It was even more intense than before. Those who could enter the top 30 were all extremely strong. Some 2 people with similar strength clashed, and the battle was extremely fierce. There was even a battle that took nearly 1,000 moves before the victor was decided. But there were also some battles that were completely one-sided. For example, Zhang Muyun had casually dealt with his opponent with a single palm. Bu Xingkai, who was ranked 3rd on the bronze list, and Duan Gang, who was ranked 4th, had also defeated their opponents with 1 move. What caught Lu Ming's attention was Bu Xingkai, as he was also a spear user. Moreover, he was a genius from the White Tiger Hall. Although the mystical sword sect was known as the Sword Sect, and there were many who used swords, there were also many who used other weapons. That was why there were so many first places. For example, Zhang Muyun was known as the number 1 sword among the bronze disciples. Duanmu Yunyang was known as the first blade. Bu Xingkai was called the first spear. Number 51, Lu Ming, versus number 12, Gu Qing. The Asilavira-robed elder announced. Gu Qing, Lu Ming's opponent this time is Gu Qing? It seems that this is the end for Lu Ming. However, as a new disciple, it's already amazing that he can reach this stage. If Lu Ming is defeated, he will definitely be defeated. But how many moves can Lu Ming take from Gu Qing? A few moves? In my opinion, 10 moves shouldn't be a problem. It's hard to say. I'm guessing it'll be within 10 moves. Lu Ming ignored the discussions around him. He stood up and walked towards the fighting ring. Senior brother Lu Ming, I believe in you. You will definitely win. Pang Shi shouted. He had blind trust in Lu Ming. Lu Ming turned to Pang Shi and smiled. Big Rock, with your words, I'm sure I'll win. After saying that, he laughed and walked forward. Where does this guy's confidence come from? Mulan pouted. This guy has always been overconfident. Although they said that, there was a flash of anticipation in the depths of their eyes. They were also looking forward to Lu Ming breaking their understanding again. When Lu Ming stepped onto the fighting ring, Gu Qing also stepped onto the fighting ring. The two of them stood opposite each other. Lu Ming could not help but size Gu Qing up. Gu Qing was dressed in a long purple robe and carried a long sword on his back. He had an ordinary appearance, but there was a burning aura emanating from his body. Junior brother Lu Ming, although you're ranked at the bottom, I won't show any mercy to any opponent. You have to be careful. Gu Qing cupped his fists and was very polite. Senior brother Gu, feel free to use all your strength. If I can't withstand it and get injured, it's my fault for not being good enough. Lu Ming said. Alright, since that's the case, take this. Starfire Prairie Fire. Gu Qing unsheathed the long sword on his back. With a flick of his wrist, the long sword burst out with hundreds of sword chi. Each sword chi was fiery red and filled with a scorching intent, sealing off the space where Lu Ming was. It's here. It's Gu Qing's famous martial art, Starfire Prairie Sword Art. Black-grade low-level martial arts technique, Starfire Prairie Fire, sword chi is like a prairie fire, covering an extremely large area, and it's almost impossible to avoid it with movement techniques. Once you can't avoid it, you'll have to face wave after wave of continuous attacks, without end. I heard that Gu Qing specializes in one type of martial arts technique. He has already cultivated it to an astonishing 4th stage and has reached the point of perfection. Lu Ming, how many moves can you take? The disciples who were watching the battles stared at the fighting ring without blinking. The genius ranked 12th is indeed powerful. A black-grade low-level martial arts technique has actually been cultivated to the 4th stage. Gu Qing's body is definitely not weak either, at least reaching complete grade 1. Otherwise, he would not be able to strike so quickly. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He did not stop and swept the long spear horizontally. Lan Yu. The crescent-shaped spear radiance flashed and produced a powerful force that destroyed the surrounding sword chi. However, a single spark could set a prairie on fire. Once the sword chi was extinguished, even more sword chi emerged and enveloped Lu Ming. Since I can't destroy it, I'll use a powerful force to break this sword technique. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He leaped up and pulled his long spear from the bottom to the top. Wherever the long spear passed, the sword chi was destroyed, revealing an empty area. Landslide. Then, Lu Ming executed the mountain crash from above. At the same time, the essential chi in his body gushed into the long spear wildly. The long spear trembled and was filled with an immense force. Lu Ming's cultivation was at the peak of the 8th grade master realm. In addition, his essential chi was 3 times stronger and more condensed than other essential chi. In addition, his physical body was at the 2nd stage lower tier. Although Lu Ming did not unleash his full power, his strength was still extremely shocking. Even if it was a small hill, Lu Ming would have destroyed it with this shot. Boom! The long spear smashed down, and the sword chi was swept away. The violent chi smashed onto Gu Qing's sword, causing his body to shake violently, and he was forced to take more than 10 steps back. CSI! Gasps could be heard all around. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Lu Ming had actually broken Gu Qing's Starfire Prairie Sword technique with one shot. The method was brutal and direct, but it was also the most effective. Lu Ming is too powerful. How does he have such great power? Could it be that Lu Ming can win? Isn't this too unbelievable? The disciples of the 4 halls found it hard to remain calm. At this moment, Gu Qing's face was extremely serious, and his eyes were filled with surprise. Junior brother Lu Ming, your talent is really beyond my expectations. However, it's not that easy to defeat me. I can only use that move. I was planning to save it for the top 10, but it's not a waste to use it on you. Flame Cage. Gu Qing shouted, and his body suddenly shot up into the sky. Layers of red flames suddenly appeared on his body, as if his whole body was suddenly burning. Then, the flames swept toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body dodged continuously to avoid the flames. However, as soon as the flames landed on the ground, they started to burn. In an instant, Lu Ming's surroundings turned into a sea of fire. Junior brother Lu Ming, this is my secret skill, Flame Cage. If you can break this move, I'll admit defeat. Gu Qing's voice sounded. Secret art, what a wondrous secret art. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. A secret skill was completely different from a martial skill. There was no difference in levels. However, each secret skill was extremely wondrous and difficult to cultivate. It also required some special conditions to successfully cultivate. Once it was used, it could greatly increase the strength of the martial artist. However, there were always losses. Secret skills also had various restrictions. For example, once some secret skills were used, the martial artist would fall into a weak state and be at the mercy of others. Gu Qing's secret skill was to burn his genuine qi as fuel, turning it into a flame cage. Unfortunately, how can flames stop me? Lu Ming's lips curled into a confident smile. Chapter 118. Chapter 118, The Reward for First Place. 549690339. Immediately, Lu Ming's long spear started to wave rapidly. The long spear was brandished and the wind was strong. The fire-patterned spear in Lu Ming's hands seemed to have turned into a fire dragon. And NBSP, hoo-hoo. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The surrounding flames rose and fell with the movement of Lu Ming's long spear. In the end, they were driven by the long spear and turned into a huge fire dragon, dancing around Lu Ming. Lu Ming stood in the sea of fire with fire dragons dancing around him. He was like a god of fire who had descended to the world. Go! In the end, Lu Ming thrust his spear at the sky. A fire dragon soared into the sky, spiraling up and soaring into the clouds. After reaching a height of 100 meters, the fire dragon slowly dissipated and turned into energy, returning to the heaven and earth. On the fighting ring, where Lu Ming stood, there was no longer any flame. The flame cage was broken. Gu Qing was dumbfounded. He only reacted after a while and forced a smile. Junior brother Lu Ming is a genius. I can't compare to him. Thank you for showing mercy, junior brother Lu Ming. I admit defeat. If Lu Ming had aimed his spear at him just now, he would have been seriously injured, if not dead, given the weakened state he was in after casting the secret skill. I was lucky, Lu Ming said with a smile. I look forward to junior brother Lu Ming entering the top 10. Gu Qing cupped his fists and left the fighting ring. He won. Lu Ming had won again. The disciples of the four halls were already too weak to exclaim. They could only feel their lips trembling. In particular, those who had repeatedly thought that Lu Ming was going to stop and lose felt their faces burning hot as if they had been slapped dozens of times. In the area of the White Tiger Hall, Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong's faces were so dark that they looked like they were about to drip water. In the depths of their eyes, there was even a flash of fear. Lu Ming's talent and speed of improvement had already made them a little frightened. No, he's still far from Duanmu Lin's level. Lu Yao clenched her fists tightly as she warned herself over and over again. It seemed that this was the only way she could feel better. Lu Ming wins. The Esilavira-robed elder announced on the fighting ring. Naturally, the entire arena was in an uproar. Lu Ming smiled, walked down the Colosseum, and returned to his seat. How is it? Senior Sister Mulan, I've told you that you should believe me. You're the one who recommended me to come here. If you believe me, it means that you believe in your own judgment. Lu Ming said to Mulan triumphantly when they returned to their seats. You brat, it's still early. You can come and show off after you enter the top 10. At the sight of Lu Ming's smug look, Mulan gritted her teeth in anger. Of course, there was a flash of admiration in the depths of her eyes. Enter the top 10? What's the reward? Lu Ming asked. Reward? What kind of reward do you want? Mulan smiled. Senior Sister Mulan, I'll give you whatever reward I want. Will you be satisfied with it? Lu Ming said with a faint smile. Mulan pouted her lips and rolled her eyes. She said, Lu Ming, you can satisfy any condition you want. Sure, unless you can come in first in this competition. First place? Senior sister Mulan, didn't you say that? Lu Ming stared at Mulan with a faint smile. Looking at Lu Ming's eyes, Mulan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Lu Ming can still get first place? Then she shook her head. First place? It was impossible. The abilities of the top few students were terrifying. She was very clear that it was impossible for Lu Ming to get first place. Thinking of this, he felt at ease and smiled. All right, then it's a deal. First place. After that, they would choose 5 people to challenge. The winner would enter the top 16. Not long after, the spots were selected, and the challenge began. This time, no one challenged Lu Ming as he had displayed too powerful an ability. It was already evening when all the challenges ended. As for the top 16, they had already been announced. The White Tiger Hall was still in the lead, occupying 7 spots. The Azure Dragon Hall had 4, the Vermilion Bird Hall had 3, and the Onyx Tortoise Hall had it the worst with only 2 in the top 16. As expected, Gu Qing of the Azure Dragon Hall had fought his way back to the top 16, proving his strength. The top 10 geniuses all made it into the top 16. Today's competition had ended. The next morning, the competition continued. This time, it was still decided by drawing lots. This time, after the lots were drawn, the Esilavir-robed elder announced the name list for the duel. Among them, the most eye-catching one was Lu Ming against Ling Kong. That's right, it was a battle between the 2 newcomer kings. For example, the other powerhouses who were ranked higher didn't fight against each other. Naturally, the battle between Lu Ming and Ling Kong attracted a lot of attention. The entire audience was discussing the battle between Lu Ming and Ling Kong. They were all guessing who would win. Lu Ming's performance was too amazing. They did not dare to say that they would definitely win in the air. Under everyone's anticipation, the match began. Duanmu Yunyang was the first to go up, and his opponent was actually Gu Qing. This was a one-sided battle. Gu Qing had used all of his strength to cast the blazing cage, but it had been split apart by Duanmu Yunyang's blade. Duanmu Yunyang had won with an overwhelming force. Then, Zhang Muyun, Biu Xingkai, Duan Gang, and the others also went up one by one. They won without any suspense. On the other hand, Cheng Feichen had only managed to defeat his opponent after a bitter battle. Finally, it was Lu Ming and Ling Kong's turn in the 7th round. Chapter 119. Chapter 119. Chapter 119 Secret Skill, Mad Beast Technique. 549690339. Finally, it was Lu Ming and Ling Kong's turn in the 7th round. The atmosphere of the entire place was ignited. In the area of the White Tiger Hall. Ling Kong, don't hold back when dealing with Lu Ming. It's best if you can cripple him. Duanmu Yunyang coldly spoke. Duanmu Yunyang, are you giving me orders? I'm telling you, I, Ling Kong, am not your Duanmu family's dog. Don't talk to me with that tone. Ling Kong grinned, his face filled with arrogance. Ling, what did that mean? Lu Ming is the White Tiger Hall's enemy. Another youth from the Duanmu family said with an ugly expression. He is the enemy of the Duanmu family, not mine. However, I will give it my all. It's not because of the Duanmu family, but because Lu Ming is a good opponent. Ling Kong pouted and continued. With that, his figure flashed in the air and he rushed towards the fighting ring. This Ling Kong, relying on the grandfather of a gold-robed elder, is simply unruly. He's a scourge. A young man from the Duanmu family said. Don't worry, he'll have to submit to us sooner or later. Duanmu Yunyang sneered. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming and Ling Kong stood opposite each other. Lu Ming, good luck. Senior brother Lu Ming is invincible. The Vermilion Bird Hall disciples shouted and cheered for Lu Ming. Ling Kong invincible, go Ling Kong. Senior brother Ling Kong beat Lu Ming up. He will definitely win. The disciples of the White Tiger Hall were not to be outdone, and they also shouted. After that, the disciples from both sides began to glower at each other. The competition had not even started, but the disciples from both courtyards were already at daggers drawn. Lu Ming, I know you're still hiding your strength. Your blood has never erupted before. Show me all your strength. I won't show you any mercy. He looked at Lu Ming from above, his eyes filled with wildness. I can't ask for more. Lu Ming smiled. Good huh? Ling Kong laughed. The two of them looked at each other. Boom. Boom. Suddenly, the two of them moved at the same time. The fighting ring rumbled and the two figures rushed at each other. Demonic Wind Staff Technique Mountain Split. Fire Gun Art Mountain Crash. The iron rod in the air and Lu Ming's long spear collided heavily. Clang! As if two ancient demons had collided, an earth-shaking boom was heard. At the point where the spear and the iron rod met, two rays of light, one red and one yellow, exploded violently, forming a huge storm that swept in all directions. The surrounding grandstands, even if they were a few hundred meters away, still felt like a strong wind was blowing, and people were almost blown away. Wasn't he too strong? What kind of power was this? Is this still the strength of a master realm? Some of the disciples were horrified. It was just a single move, but the power was terrifying. In the fighting ring, the two exchanged a blow and both retreated 7 or 8 steps. What a powerful force. Ling Kong's body is even stronger than mine. It has already reached the 2nd grade upper tier, and his profound level martial skill has also reached the peak of the 4th stage, no weaker than mine. It seems that I can't win against him with only 60% of my strength. Lu Ming's mind was racing. The strength of Lu Ming's essential chi far exceeded that of an average peak 9th grade master. In the previous confrontation, he had only used 60% of it at most. All right again. It roared in the air and its muscles squirmed. Like pieces of iron, it rushed toward Lu Ming at high speed. Then 70%. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He stepped on the ground with the tip of his foot and his body dashed out like a gust of wind. Clang! There was another violent explosion. This time, he retreated in the air, but Lu Ming only swayed a little. Lu Ming has the upper hand. Is he going to win? It's not that easy, just wait and see. Boom! After retreating in the air, he charged at Lu Ming like a wild beast that had gone mad. Clang! Clang! The two of them continued to exchange blows. Ling Kong was forced back each time, but he would charge forward again in the next moment. In an instant, the two of them had exchanged more than a dozen moves. Everyone present held their breath and watched without blinking. Some of the younger ones were even more excited. It was too exciting and violent. The two of them directly met force with force. It was simple and violent, but it was the most shocking. In the area of the 4 courtyards, there were some people who had extremely grave expressions. For example, Su Song, who was ranked 8th, Dong Ce, who was ranked 9th, and Lei Dong, who was ranked 10th. This was because the strength that the two of them had displayed was already close to their own. Clang! With another move, he was forced to retreat 7 or 8 steps. This time, he did not continue to attack. Ha, awesome, awesome, this is too awesome. Lu Ming, you're not like those sissies who wield an embroidered sword and learn some slimy body techniques. You're not like a man at all. I must treat you to a drink after this competition. Ling Kong laughed. All right, I'll be waiting for your wine. Lu Ming smiled, his eyes burning with fighting spirit. Such a direct collision also made Lu Ming's blood boil. However, Lu Ming, if this is all you have, I'll be the winner of this round. Ling Kong said as he licked his lips. Boom! Soon after, Ling Kong's body flashed with a blood-red light as his bloodline exploded. His bloodline was a 6th level bloodline. In the mystical sword sect, Most of the top geniuses had a 5th-grade bloodline. Only an extremely small number of people had bloodlines of the 6th rank. It was as fierce as the wind, as high as the sky. There was not a single person with a rank 6 bloodline in this batch of newcomers. Before Lu Ming rose to power, many people said that this year's batch was the weakest in recent years. Of course, everyone who said that now kept their mouths shut. Pai li pa la. At the same time as Ling Kong's blood vessels burst out, his body actually let out a sound like beans being fried. Soon after, Ling Kong's muscles wriggled, his bones shifted, and he actually began to swell. In just a few breaths' time, Ling Kong's body had grown several times in size. He was like a giant ape, and a violent and fiendish aura emanated from him. Mad Beast Technique, Secret Technique, Mad Beast Technique. Ling Kong actually mastered the Mad Beast Technique. With Ling Kong's strength and the Mad Beast Technique, how terrifying would he be? This is the strength of the top 5. A series of exclamations came from the stands. It's actually the Mad Beast Technique. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. This was something that Hua Qi had not recorded. The Mad Beast Technique was a secret technique that allowed one to transform into a beast and increase one's strength by a large margin. However, its weakness was that it didn't last long and placed a huge burden on the body. After using it, the body would be weak for a period of time. Receive my attack. He roared in the air and charged at Lu Ming like a giant ape. His speed was much faster than before. The eruption of his bloodline and the Mad Beast Technique had more than doubled Ling Kong's combat strength. Boom! The thick iron rod smashed down on Lu Ming. The metal cudgel smashed through the air, producing a rumbling sound. It was extremely terrifying. In that case, I'll use 100% of my cultivation. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and the essential qi in his body suddenly burst out. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming's body exploded with a terrifying aura. Streams of extremely powerful essential qi wrapped around him. Buzz! 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 At this moment, Zhang Muyun, Duanmu Yunyang, Biu Xingkai, and Duan Gang all stood up from their seats. Chapter 120. Chapter 120, entering the top 10. 549690339. Zhang Miyun, Duanmu Yunyang, Biu Xingkai, and Duan Gang stood up at the same time. The 3 people behind them looked especially serious. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear swept out and once again collided with the iron rod in the air. The strong qi spread out and stirred up gusts of strong wind. Some of the disciples at the front of the stands with slightly weaker cultivation were directly swept up by the strong wind. If it were not for the help of the disciples with higher cultivation, they would have been blown away. It was too terrifying. This attack had already surpassed the realm of martial masters and reached the realm of great martial masters. After a loud noise, the 2 figures separated at the same time and slid back more than 10 meters. This power is really strong. Let's continue. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he continued to rush forward. Again! He roared in the air and pounced at Lu Ming again. Clang! The 2 of them collided again. The 2 of them separated after 1 strike and then clashed again. Clang! Clang! On the fighting stage, it was as if 2 ancient gods were bombarding each other. The terrifying collision sounds were deafening, and those with lower cultivation had to use their martial arts to resist. It's too terrifying. Is this the strength of 2 new generation kings? Only the top 5 of the bronze rank can have such combat strength, right? That's right. Those who are ranked 5th on the bronze list are definitely not this powerful. The most terrifying one is still Lu Ming. He just joined this year. It's really shocking. I wonder if Lu Ming can break senior brother Feng Wuji's record. Back then, senior brother Feng Wuji managed to get to the 5th place as a newbie in his first year. Just wait and see. The disciples of the 4 courtyards were shocked by Lu Ming's combat strength. Clang! Clang! The explosions continued, and after exchanging hundreds of moves, the 2 of them separated and stood opposite each other. Lu Ming, I've lost. Ling Kong sighed. Suddenly, his body trembled and he fell to the ground, panting heavily. Whether it was the Mad Beast technique or the bloodline explosion, they couldn't be maintained for too long. At this moment, the time was up. As Ling Kong admitted defeat, the crowd boiled over, especially the Vermilion Bird Hall disciples who were shouting Lu Ming's name. Lu Ming's victory basically meant that he had entered the top 10. This time, the Vermilion Bird Hall might have 2 people in the top 10, which was already very good. They would definitely not be at the bottom. In the past 7 to 8 years, the Vermilion Bird Hall had always been at the bottom. Lu Ming, if there's a chance in the future, let's fight again. Ling Kong said. All right. Lu Ming nodded. Haha. Ling Kong laughed as he walked down the fighting ring and went back to his normal self. He might have another match next. Lu Ming came down from the fighting ring. After that, another match continued. It didn't take long for the competition to end. After the competition ended, it was the elders' turn to have a headache. This time, the elders were going to choose 2 of the strongest to make up for the top 10. Then, from the remaining 6 people, 3 people would be chosen as challengers to challenge the top 10 experts. If they could win, they would replace them. After an intense discussion, the candidate was finally chosen. Without a doubt, Ling Kong's combat strength was obvious to all. He was directly placed in the top 10 as one of the first 2 places. Then, the other 3 began to issue challenges. Similarly, no one had challenged Lu Ming. When the challenge ended, this year's top 10 was finally born. This year's top 10 was not much different from the previous bronze list. The previous top 10 on the bronze list were: First place, Zhang Muyun, Azure Dragon Hall. In second place was Duanmu Yunyang from the White Tiger Hall. Third place, Biyu Xingkai from the White Tiger Hall. Fourth place, Duan Gang, Onyx Tortoise Hall. Fifth place, Duanmu Qin, White Tiger Hall. Sixth place, Cheng Feiqing, Vermilion Bird Hall. Seventh place, Zhuirong, Azure Dragon Hall. Eighth place, Su Song, Black Tortoise Region. Ninth place, Dong Si, Azure Dragon Court. 10th place, Lei Dong, White Tiger Hall. Among them, there were 4 from the White Tiger Hall. 3 of them were in the top 5, and they were extremely powerful. The Azure Dragon Hall had 3, the Onyx Tortoise Hall had 2, and the Vermilion Bird Hall had 1. This time, there was a slight change. Ling Kong and Lu Ming had made it into the top 10. Su Song, who was originally in 8th place, and Lei Dong, who was in 10th place, were not destined to be in the top 10. In this way, the White Tiger Hall still had 4 people, the Azure Dragon Hall had 3, the Onyx Tortoise Hall had the worst, with only Duan Gang, and the Vermilion Bird Hall had 2. The top 10 would have to fight against each other. In other words, each of them would have to compete with the other 9. In the end, they would be ranked according to the number of victories they won. Today's competition had come to an end. The battles between the top 10 would be held tomorrow. Lu Ming, it's already very good that you can achieve this result. Don't feel pressured in tomorrow's competition. Just perform as you normally would. Mulan said. However, she was smiling so much that her eyes were almost squinting. That won't do. I'm going to get first place. I'm still waiting for your reward, senior sister Mulan. Lu Ming said half-jokingly. All right, then you have to work hard. Mulan's face was slightly red. She cast a glance at Lu Ming, immediately causing Hua Qi, Pang Shi, and the rest to stare at him. Then, Mulan left the place with light steps. Lu Ming, Pang Shi, and Hua Qi also walked back together. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming entered the Supreme Shrine and started cultivating the fire gun controlling art. Today's battle with Ling Kong could be said to be extremely satisfying. Other than the last move of the fire gun technique, the explosion of his bloodline, and the fire force, he had already used all his strength. He had 100% of his cultivation, a second-grade lower-tier body, and the fire gun controlling art. Lu Ming had benefited a lot from this battle. He felt that the fire gun art was not far from a breakthrough. In the midst of the wonderful chanting, Lu Ming was quietly comprehending the firearms control art. The fire-patterned spear in his hand started to dance unconsciously. The strong wind whistled and the long spear broke through the air. Time passed by unknowingly. 3 hours had passed when Lu Ming stopped. I've finally reached the 5th level of the fire gun art, the perfection level. There was a flash in Lu Ming's eyes. The fire gun technique had been stuck at the peak of the 4th level for a long time. Finally, after the battle with Ling Kong, he had a breakthrough. Zhang Muyun, Duan Muyun Yang, how strong are you? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. After that, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated the true war dragon technique to cultivate. At this moment, the White Tiger Hall's headmaster was seated in a resplendent hall. Below him were Duanmu Yunyang, Biu Xingkai, and Duanmu Chen. I didn't expect Lu Ming to have reached such a terrifying level. You must be careful when you meet him tomorrow. The headmaster of the White Tiger Hall warned. Don't worry, Di. Lu Ming is no match for me. I'll definitely teach him an unforgettable lesson tomorrow. I'll let him know who's the one with the bronze first spear. Bu Xingkai said confidently. Although Lu Ming is quite powerful, he's not a threat to me at all. My goal is to defeat Zhang Muyun and take the first place. Duanmu Yunyang said with bright eyes. All right, Yunyang. If you can defeat Zhang Muyun this time, the family will definitely reward you handsomely. The White Tiger Academy president said. Chapter 121. Chapter 121. Chapter 121 Consecutive Battles. 549690339. Somewhere in the Onyx Tortoise Hall, a vigorous voice rang out. Duan Gang, you're the only one left in the Onyx Tortoise Hall this time. You must enter the top 3 this time, or else my Onyx Tortoise Hall will be at the bottom. Don't worry, Dean. Duan Gang will definitely do his best. Zhang Muyun and Zhou Yirong stood side by side in a courtyard of the Azure Dragon Hall. Big brother Mu Yun, this time, Duanmu Yunyang will definitely want to obtain the first place. Are you confident? Zhou Yirong asked. In another year, Lu Ming can be my opponent. No one else. Zhang Muyun let out a long sigh. His sigh seemed a little lonely, but it also showed his strong self-confidence. This night was destined to be a sleepless one. Countless people were looking forward to tomorrow's battle. At first, everyone thought that there were 2 main points to watch in this competition. The first was to see which rank he could get in the air. Second, who would emerge as the champion in the battle between Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun. After all, Duanmu Yunyang was the newcomer king of that generation. However, he was suppressed by another person. He wanted to defeat Zhang Muyun at all times. But now, there was one more thing to watch. How high would Lu Ming, the newcomer king, rank this year? Therefore, it was even more exciting. Under everyone's anticipation, the night passed. The sky had just turned bright when Feng Wu and Mulan arrived at Lu Ming's dormitory. After that, everyone had their breakfast and walked towards the competition ground together. When they arrived, they were shocked. There was already a sea of people here, and the number of people was much more than yesterday. The Esilavir disciples who did not come yesterday put down their work and rushed over. In addition, some Esilavir-robed elders had also arrived. The 10 people today were all true geniuses. They weren't the kind of old disciples who were stuck at the peak of the 9th grade master realm and couldn't break through. They were all young and were just suppressing their own cultivation. As long as they broke through to the great martial master realm, they would be considered geniuses among the great martial masters. They could even fight above their level. In the future, they might be able to enter the Esilavir ranking. Therefore, Esilavir disciples also attached great importance to them. Not long after, the deans of the 4 schools and the sect masters all arrived. Clang, clang. With the 9 melodious bell chimes, the exciting battle between the top 10 had just begun. All right, the battles of the top 10 will begin now. This battle will be divided into 9 rounds. The first match of the first round, Ling Kong vs. Duanmu Chen. On the fighting ring, a Esilavir-robed elder announced the verdict. Everyone's spirits were suddenly lifted. They didn't expect that the first round would be such a big show. Duanmu Chen, who was ranked 5th on the bronze ranking list, was going to be the winner. On the platform, the two of them stood facing each other. Duanmu Chen was a rare genius of the Duanmu family. His sword technique was unparalleled, second only to Zhang Muyun on the bronze ranking. Duanmu Chen, you're no match for me. Ling Kong was still confident, wild, and filled with fiendish qi. Not necessarily. Duanmu Chen said coldly. Buzz. Buzz. The two of them moved at the same time. Duanmu Chen's sword qi was incomparably sharp. It tore through the air and the sword broke through the firmament. It was extremely powerful. Unfortunately, he encountered Ling Kong. Ling Kong didn't care what kind of sword qi it was. He smashed it with his iron rod. When Ling Kong unleashed his Mad Beast technique, Duanmu Chen was completely outmatched and was completely suppressed by Ling Kong's violent attacks. This round, Ling Kong won. Ling Kong won, and Duanmu Chen is no match for him. Lu Ming, who's even more powerful, is definitely stronger than Duanmu Chen. Indeed, Lu Ming and Ling Kong are both capable of making it to the top 5. The victory in the air inevitably reminded people of Lu Ming. The second match, Zhang Muyun vs. Dong Si. The judge announced the start of the second round. There was no suspense in this match. Dong Si had admitted defeat directly before he even made a move. It was unwise to attack when he knew he was no match for them. There was more than one battle today. There were still many more to come. If he used up too much energy, it would be disadvantageous for the later battles. He might as well admit defeat. The third round, Lu Ming vs. Cheng Fei. It's actually Cheng Fei Ching? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The Vermilion Bird Hall only had the two of them in the top 10. He did not expect them to face each other in the first round. The two of them ascended the fighting ring from the same area. Cheng Feichen, around 17 or 18 years old, was dressed in a red dress and looked extremely beautiful. There were only two women in the top 10. Cheng Feicheng and Zhou Yirong were both famous beauties in the mystical sword sect, and were known as the sect's top 10 beauties. At this moment, Cheng Fian's beautiful eyes were bright. She looked at Lu Ming. Junior brother Lu Ming, I didn't expect that we would meet in the first round. This is such a coincidence. What a coincidence. Senior sister, please enlighten me, Lu Ming smiled. It's fine if you want to teach me, but how can I be your opponent? I admit defeat for this round. Cheng Feicheng's beautiful eyes flickered as he smiled. Admit defeat? Lu Ming was a little stunned. That's right, junior brother Lu Ming. You're the hope of the Vermilion Bird Hall. We're counting on you this time. Cheng Feicheng's eyes narrowed as he smiled and walked down the fighting ring. Then, Lu Ming's first round ended easily. The disciples of the four courtyards were not too surprised. After all, Cheng Fian and Lu Ming were both disciples of the Vermilion Bird Hall. There was no reason for them to compete with each other and waste their combat strength. The fourth match, Duanmu Yunyang vs. Zhou Yirong. The competition continued. Duanmu Yunyang and Zhou Yirong also had no suspense. Zhou Yirong had only made a few symbolic moves, and seeing that she was no match for him, she simply admitted defeat. Then came the fifth match, which was also the match that everyone paid more attention to in the first round. Bu Xingkai vs. Duan Gang. Bu Xingkai, ranked third on the bronze list, was known as the #1 spear user. His attack power was extremely strong. As for Duan Gang, he ranked fourth on the bronze ranking list and was known as the #1 defensive master. His defensive ability was unparalleled among the bronze disciples. On the other hand, his close combat ability was also very strong. This was a battle between the strong. Duan Gang, let me pierce through your turtle shell today. Bu Xingkai held a black spear and pointed it at Duan Gang. It was sharp and overbearing. If you have the ability, try it. Duan Gang's figure was burly and strong. His muscles were bulging, and one could tell at a glance that he was a body-tempering expert. Kill. Formation-breaking spear art. Bu Xingkai rushed toward Duan Gang and thrust his long spear. The sky was filled with spear shadows, and he attacked Duan Gang. Black Turtle Protection. Duan Gang let out a soft cry, and his body began to glow. 5 shields that looked like turtle shells condensed around his body. At the same time, he put on his spirit weapon gloves and clawed at Bu Xingkai. His sharp claw radiance was like a blade. As soon as they exchanged blows, the two of them began an intense battle. Bu Xingkai's attacks were like a storm, continuous. However, Duan Gang's defense was impenetrable. Every time Bu Xingkai's spear radiance stabbed at Duan Gang, it was blocked by the turtle shell shield around his body. For a moment, it was difficult to determine who was better. The disciples of the 4 courtyards were all watching intently. That's amazing! So, that's the power of the top 4 on the bronze list? Pang Shi was dumbfounded as he muttered to himself. Senior brother Lu Ming, who do you think will win? Pang Shi suddenly asked. Chapter 122. Chapter 122, The Two Geniuses Who Are Far Ahead. 549690339. Lu Ming sorted out his thoughts and said, both of them have cultivated the path of the physical body. Duan Gang's physical body should have reached the amazing complete grade 2, while Bu Xingkai's is in the upper tier of grade 2. But Duan Gang is focused on defense. Although he has also cultivated an offensive dark level martial skill, he has only cultivated it to the 3rd level. On the other hand, Bu Xingkai's spear technique has already reached the 5th level. As time goes on, Bu Xingkai will definitely win. Or, if Bu Xingkai has a killing move, he will win soon. Mu Lan looked at Lu Ming in surprise and said, Lu Ming, you have good taste. Look, Bu Xingkai is about to use his ultimate move. At this moment, Bu Xingkai leaped up from the fighting ring. His body was more than 20 meters high. Then he pointed his long spear downward and stabbed toward Duan Gang. Toxic Dragon Drill? Go! Bu Xingkai shouted. As he descended, the spear started to spin rapidly with the tip of the spear as the center. Indistinctly, a black evil dragon could be seen emerging with astonishing might. Black Turtle Protection, indestructible. Shield. Duan Gang roared as he circulated his protective divine art with all his might. A total of 5 tortoiseshell-shaped shields completely covered his body. Boom! An earth-shattering boom was heard. The black and yellow lights almost flooded the fighting ring. After a while, a figure slid back quickly and coughed out a mouthful of blood. It was Duan Gang. Bu Xingkai, on the other hand, stood proudly with a long spear in his hand. Other than his heavy breathing, he was completely fine. Bu Xingkai had won. The crowd sighed, especially the disciples of the Onyx Tortoise Hall. Duan Gang had been defeated by Bu Xingkai. It seemed impossible for him to enter the top 3. Bu Xingkai is the winner of this round. Alright, the first round is over for today. Take a break. Those who have just unleashed their bloodline power will be given a blood clotting pill to recover as soon as possible. Then, we'll proceed to the second round. The judge announced. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The mystical sword sect was really generous for this competition. They had even taken out blood clotting pills. The blood clotting pill could restore the power of one's bloodline for a short period of time after consumption, allowing one's bloodline to erupt again. It was extremely precious. Even the lowest grade that could restore the bloodline of a master realm martial artist was frighteningly expensive and extremely difficult to refine, so it was naturally extremely rare. About half an hour later, the second round of the competition began. The first match, Cheng Feiqing vs. Chua Irong. The judge announced. Everyone's spirits were lifted. Among the top 10, there were only 2 women. He didn't expect to meet them now. 2 graceful figures floated up and landed on the fighting ring. Both of them were extremely beautiful and were known as one of the 10 beauties of the mystical sword sect. Standing on the same stage, it was like a beautiful scene. Senior Sister Desk, please. Junior Sister Cheng, please. The 2 of them cupped their fists at each other and started fighting. Cheng Feiqing's weapon was a sword, and his bloodline was a fire spirit bird. so her sword technique was of the fire attribute. Sword chi burst forth, and it was extremely hot. Zhuirong was using a 3-meter-long soft whip. With the addition of her plant-type Thousand Fate Vine, they complemented each other well. The soft whip in her hands was ever-changing, dazzling the eyes of the onlookers. Two graceful figures even shuttled back and forth on the fighting ring like two dancing butterflies, which was pleasing to the eye. In the blink of an eye, the two had exchanged dozens of moves. In the end, Zhuirong still lost because Cheng Feima's flames were effective against her. There was not much change in his ranking on the bronze lists. The ranking on the bronze ranking list was determined by the elder of the mystical sword sect based on the battle records, the combat strength of the participants, and the battle techniques they were good at. It had to be said that it was really accurate. The second match, Duanmu Chen versus Dong Si. There was no suspense in this battle. Dong Si tenaciously resisted more than a dozen moves and was still defeated. The third match, Zhang Muyun versus Biyu Xingkai. This was the highlight of the show. Zhang Muyun, ranked first, versus Biyu Xingkai, ranked third. Zhang Muyun was wearing a white robe and had a warm smile on his face. However, the moment he attacked, his sword chi was shocking and his sword light illuminated the 90 states. He was like a sword immortal. Although Biyu Xingkai was powerful, he couldn't last more than 10 moves even with all his strength. 8 moves, he was defeated in just 8 moves. And Zhang Muyun didn't even activate his bloodline. Strong, too strong, Zhang Muyun was almost invincible. Now, everyone was looking forward to Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun's battle. Perhaps only Duanmu Yunyang could compete with Zhang Muyun. The fourth match, Duanmu Yunyang versus Ling Kong. It was another highlight, and the atmosphere was even more lively. This was another battle between two new generation kings from the White Tiger Hall. Ling Kong, do you still want to fight me? You should know that you're no match for me. Duanmu Yunyang said indifferently as he held his battle blade. Haha, Duanmu Yunyang, when did you see me surrender without a fight? Let's cut the crap and fight. He laughed loudly in the air. Then, he directly used the Mad Beast technique and burst out with his most powerful combat strength as he charged towards Duanmu Yun. Then I'll fulfill your wish. Duanmu Yunyang said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, he unsheathed his battle blade. As the battle sword was unsheathed, the surging blade energy came out. Buzz! A blade energy, more than 10 meters long, slashed down from the sky. Ling Kong roared like a mad beast. The iron rod brought about a loud rumbling sound as it smashed toward the blade light. With a loud bang, the fighting ring shook. Ling Kong's figure shook slightly, and his attack was blocked. However, Duanmu Yunyang's attacks were like water that had opened the floodgates. They surged and surged towards the sky in an endless stream. The domineering blade rays shot out one after another, as if they would never stop. 8 moves. Just like how Zhang Muyun defeated Biyu Xingkai, he was defeated in 8 moves and was cut off the fighting ring. That's amazing. Duanmu Yunyang and Zhang Muyun are far ahead of the top 10. It's hard for the others to compete with them. It's all up to the two of them. Perhaps they'll be able to put on an earth-shattering battle. The disciples of the 4 courtyards discussed excitedly. The 5th round, Lu Ming versus Duan Gang. At this moment, the judge announced the 5th match. It's here. The battle between Lu Ming and Duan Gang will determine who the top 5 will be. If Lu Ming can defeat Duan Gang, he'll definitely make it into the top 5 and compete with Biyu Xingkai for the 3rd place to determine who's the bronze first spear user. That's right. However, according to my speculation, if Lu Ming only has the combat strength that he had when he fought with Ling Kong, it would be very difficult for him to break Duan Gang's defense unless he has other unique skills. That's hard to say. Can't you see that Lu Ming's blood meridian didn't erupt? This was really the case. I almost forgot. Amidst the discussions, Lu Ming stepped onto the fighting ring. Duan Gang stood in front of Lu Ming like an iron tower. At this moment, Duan Gang's expression was a little grave. At this point, he no longer dared to underestimate Lu Ming. He knew that he had to fight with all his might. Otherwise, he might very well be defeated by Lu Ming. Chapter 123. Chapter 123. Chapter 123 Unstoppable Winning Streak. 549690339. Junior brother Lu, please. Please. The two of them cupped their fists. Boom. Then, Duan Gang stomped on the ground heavily. His tall body was like a chariot, charging toward Lu Ming in an overbearing manner. Duan Gang was a close combat expert, so he had to close the distance. Fire gun art broken armor. As soon as he made his move, Lu Ming used the armor fragment. The penetrative power of this move was extremely strong, second only to the last move, explosion. Black turtle protection. Duan Gang didn't hesitate and executed his defensive martial skill, and 5 tortoiseshell-shaped shields appeared. Clang! The spear struck one of the shields, and it actually made a sound of metal clashing. Lu Ming felt as if the long spear had stabbed into an iron mountain. The long spear bent into a bow shape. Lu Ming borrowed the rebound of the long spear and drifted backward. What a strong defense! Lu Ming was full of admiration. However, he did not know that Duan Gang's shock was even greater than his. He felt that his defense was almost penetrated by Lu Ming's long spear. Is this Lu Ming's ultimate move? If he isn't, then he's too powerful. He's even stronger than Biu Xingkai. Duan Gang was shocked, but he did not stop and continued to rush toward Lu Ming. His hand was like an eagle's claw, and he struck out a dozen sharp claw lights. Fire dance. Lu Ming's spear trembled and flames appeared one after another, destroying Duan Gang's claw radiance. Then, more than 10 flame flowers landed on Duan Gang's protective shield, causing ripples. Landslide. Lu Ming took advantage of the momentum and jumped up, his long spear smashing down on Duan Gang. Boom! The spear smashed into Duan Gang's protective shield, causing it to shake violently. Duan Gang's expression changed drastically, and his body staggered backward. He took 5 or 6 steps back before he could stabilize himself. He's retreating. Duan Gang has retreated. He's so strong. I feel that Lu Ming's attack is even stronger than when he was fighting Ling Kong yesterday. That's right. Did he hide his strength yesterday? This is unbelievable. On the viewing platform, Ling Kong's eyes revealed a beastly glint as he muttered, "This guy was clearly at the 4th level yesterday, but he's already at the 5th level today. Could it be that he broke through last night? That's impossible, right?" Lan Yu. As soon as Duan Gang retreated, Lu Ming cast the attack with the largest area of effect, moon canvas. A crescent moon formed and heavily struck Duan Gang's protective shield. Bang! Duan Gang retreated again. Lightning. Then, he became one with the spear and arrived as fast as lightning. This spear attack once again caused Duan Gang's protective shield to tremble. Ah! Duan Gang roared and threw a few punches in succession. He charged at Lu Ming without a care and shouted, "Lu Ming, if you have a unique skill, you should use it as soon as possible. You can't break my defense like this." From the start of the competition, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming. He was really aggrieved. In this case, he could not get close to Lu Ming at all. It was impossible for him to win. If he wanted to lose, he might as well lose in a straightforward manner. All right, as you wish. Explode. All the essential chi in Lu Ming's body surged out and rushed toward the long spear, gathering at the tip of the spear. Whoosh! Like a bolt of lightning, the spear streaked across the sky and once again stabbed into Duan Gang's protective shield. Boom! In an instant, the genuine chi at the tip of the spear suddenly erupted like a volcano that had been accumulating for thousands of years, erupting with a powerful and shocking destructive powers. Gotcha! Duan Gang's protective shield cracked and then exploded with a bang. Then, Duan Gang let out a blood-curdling screech, and his body flew far away. His entire body was covered in blood. Who? As Duan Gang flew out, all the disciples of the 4 courtyards let out a long breath. Lu Ming has won. He's in the top 5. It's a sure thing. I wonder who's stronger, him or Biyu Xingkai. It seems to be Lu Ming. In the area of the White Tiger Hall, everyone from the Duanmu family had ugly expressions on their faces. Lu Yao and Lu Yunxiong were even more so. They were gritting their teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. However, the Vermilion Bird Hall area was filled with cheers. This was because after Lu Ming defeated Duan Gang, the Vermilion Bird Hall would not be last in this year's competition no matter what. In the fighting ring, Duan Gang got up and said with a bitter smile, "Junior brother Lu Ming is indeed powerful. I'm sincerely convinced of my defeat." His physical body was extremely strong, so he didn't suffer too serious of an injury and could recover very quickly. Senior brother Duan is too polite. Lu Ming said with a smile. Lu Ming is the winner of this round. The second round is over. We'll move on to the third round later. The judge announced. Soon, the third round began. In this round, Lu Ming's opponent was Duanmu Chen. There was no suspense in the battle between Lu Ming and Duanmu Chen. Lu Ming had suppressed Duanmu Chen throughout the entire battle and won in just a dozen moves. As for the others, those who had encountered Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang had all admitted defeat. Because there was no need to fight, it was better to save strength for the later matches. In the fourth round, Lu Ming versus Dong Si. Without a doubt, he won easily. In this round, he was up against Biyu Xingkai. The battle between the two of them was extremely intense. They fought for more than 100 moves. In the end, Biyu Xingkai was the one who won and defeated Ling Kong. In the fifth round, Lu Ming was up against Biyu Xingkai. This competition caused the entire place to boil with excitement, because this battle could be said to be a battle for the third place. If Lu Ming won, there would be no problem for him to get third place. If Biyu Xingkai won, the third place would be his. Moreover, both of them used guns, so it was more meaningful. In the fighting ring, the two of them stood opposite each other, each holding a spear. Lu Ming, let's decide the winner with one move. How about it? Bu Xingkai said in a deep voice. Good, that's just what I want. Lu Ming smiled. One shot to decide the outcome. Everyone was stunned for a moment, then they watched with even more excitement. A single shot to decide the outcome was more dangerous, but also more exciting. Boom. Boom. A powerful aura suddenly burst out from the two of them. Their auras collided and the two of them rushed out at the same time. Toxic Dragon Drill. Explode. The two of them executed their ultimate moves almost at the same time. The two spear shadows instantly cut through the void and collided together. It was as if two stars had collided. On the fighting stage, with the point of intersection of the two spears as the core, two colors emerged. One was fiery red and the other was black. The two colors were clearly separated and did not give in to each other. However, the stalemate only lasted for a moment. Suddenly, the fiery red side erupted like a volcano. A powerful force gushed out and instantly suppressed the black side. Bang! A figure flew far away and fell heavily on the ground. Without a doubt, it was Biyu Xingkai. Bu Xingkai had lost, and his injuries were much more serious than Duan Gang's. Bang! The White Tiger Hall's headmaster smacked his seat, his face dark. The Vermilion Bird Hall's head burst into laughter. Lu Ming wins. The judge announced. There's no doubt that Lu Ming will be third. Oh my God! Didn't that mean that Lu Ming has broken senior brother Feng Wuji's record? That's terrifying. Someone exclaimed. In that case, wouldn't there be a genius even stronger than senior brother Feng Wuji in the mystical sword sect? That's hard to say. Being strong now doesn't mean that you'll be strong in the future. There will be many difficulties in the future. In history, there have been many people who were amazing in their youth, but when they grow up, their achievements are only average. That's true, but breaking senior brother Feng Wuji's record is already shocking enough. It cut through the air and charged toward Zhang Muyun. Buzz! With a sword cry, a giant sword formed above Zhang Muyun's head and slashed forward. Boom! The saber and the sword met, stirring up countless sword chi and saber radiance that shot out in all directions. The blade chi and sword chi hit the ground. If it were not for the inscriptions on the ground, it would have been full of holes. It was just a test, but it had already reached such a terrifying stage. Destruction Blade Art, Spirit Destruction. Duanmu Yunyang's battle blade was unsheathed. It was as if a demon had broken through its restraints and reappeared in the world. The terrifying blade light seemed to be able to split the void as it slashed toward Zhang Muyun. Buzz! The sound of a sword rang out. Zhang Muyun's body did not move, but his long sword was unsheathed. As soon as the sword was unsheathed, a sharp and merciless will filled the air, and the entire world seemed to be enveloped by his sword chi. Buzz! A light sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. If one did not listen carefully, one would not be able to hear it. A sword light flashed and shot out before the sound could be heard. Boom! This sword chi wasn't as overbearing as Duanmu Yunyang's blade light. However, it was able to destroy Duanmu Yunyang's blade light with a single strike. Obliteration Blade Art, Exterminate the Heavens. Duanmu Yunyang shouted. Duanmu Yunyang's entire body sank into a deathly silence as the blade was unleashed. He no longer had any feelings. Humans were heartless, but the saber was even more heartless. There was only an endless sharpness that could kill everything in the world. 4-season sword technique, overflowing with spring, break. Zhang Muyun made a faint sound and thrust his sword forward. In an instant, hundreds of sword chi appeared in the sky. The sword chi was fine and dense, like spring rain, and enveloped Duanmu Yunyang's blade technique. If Duanmu Yunyang's blade technique represented destruction, then Zhang Muyun's sword technique represented vitality and hope. The streaks of sword chi were like drops of spring rain. Although each drop was not powerful, when they were combined, their power was endless. The saber radiance and sword chi dissipated in the air. Wonderful, this is simply too wonderful. Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang's black-grade low-level martial arts techniques have already been cultivated to the highest level, man and martial arts as one. He's definitely at the realm of man and martial arts merging, far surpassing the others. Moreover, their physical bodies are both complete rank 2. It's really amazing. Both of their bloodlines are at level 6. Their combat strength has completely exceeded the martial master realm. Killing an ordinary first-grade great martial master won't be a problem. Are they the top 2 geniuses on the bronze list? It's indeed shocking. Lu Ming's eyes were bright and he sighed in his heart. Beside him, Mu Lan glanced at Lu Ming and said, "How is it? This is the strength of Zhang Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang. Do you still have the confidence to obtain first place after seeing their battle strength?" "Why not?" Lu Ming said, revealing a meaningful smile. "This guy? You're pretending to be profound, right?" Mu Lan felt that she could not understand Lu Ming. She did not know if he was telling the truth. Obliteration Blade Art, World Destruction. Duanmu Yunyang bellowed and instantly slashed out 18 times. Each of the 18 blade lights was extremely terrifying. The key was that the trajectory of each slash was erratic, like a wild horse out of control, jumping and unpredictable. 4-season sword technique, Scorching Summer. The sound of a sword rang out, and a sword light appeared in the sky. It gave off a dazzling light, like a sun. This sun was actually continuously shooting out dense sword chi. No matter how unpredictable Duanmu Yunyang's blade lights were, they all crumbled under the sword chi. The autumn wind is bleak. Then, Zhang Muyun's next move was unleashed. The fighting ring seemed to have fallen into a state of desolation. Everything was dead and the autumn wind was blowing. A lonely sword light flashed across the sky and slashed toward Duanmu Yunyang. Boom! Duanmu Yunyang was forced to retreat rapidly. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.